Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. It's 9 o'clock, so I would like to call the meeting to order. I ask that as a courtesy to all and to please ensure that you've silenced your cell phones. Also, I'd like to remind our directors to turn their microphone on each time they speak to help with the audio and video recordings. For the record, I'll note that the public meeting notice was properly posted as required by law, and the notice of this board meeting was provided to each of the directors. Directors Tom Abraham and Austin Ruiz indicated that they would not be present for this meeting. We've now reached the portion of the meeting where we have set aside time to hear from you, the general public. Those interested in providing comments by filling out one of the comment cards available at the reception desk will be called to approach the podium and make their comments at this time. We encourage you to speak your mind, tell us your thoughts. Be mindful, however, that the board is limited by the provisions of the Open Meetings Act and its ability to participate in discussion or deliberations on issues that are not posted on the agenda. So, in an effort to provide everyone an opportunity to speak, we request that each presentation is limited to 3 minutes. The first public comment is, I'm going to call Charlie. Charlie, if you'll spell your first and last name, just so that way we can have the record on record. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Charlie Cody, C-H-A-R-L-I-E, Cody, C-O-D-Y.
Thank you.
And I'm here to represent my farm, Meadowhawk Hollow, and to talk about the issues that solar are going to bring to my farm. So, and the water quality and the erosion and the land are all around in central Texas. Major solar installation is being planned to go in around my farm, which will surround me on all 4 sides. Because of no regulation in the solar industry, these people have the ability to put industrial solar within 50 feet of my property line, which can be within 100 feet of my home. Because of the shape of the land, and this is in the Blackland Prairie, I live in a hollow, that's why it's called Meadowhawk Hollow. The solar panels will be here. The water will wash from here down through my property, through my house, through my land, to a creek that runs the whole west side of my property. That creek runs into the little river, which feeds the Brazos. Okay, this is huge contamination issues. The erosion alone that the extra solar, when it rains, that these solar panels will create, is going to create a huge erosion issue, which will contaminate the water that's running into the Brazos. Not just the erosion from the land, but also because they will have to use herbicides to control the weeds and the grasses that will grow. They say they're going to put sheep there. It's the wrong type of feed for sheep to eat. They will use herbicides because they don't want to pay somebody to mow in between every one of those rows. That herbicides will wash through my property, which is beyond organic. I use no pesticides, no herbicides. I do not use any vaccinations on my chickens, turkeys, cows, pigs, goats. I garden, I have hoop houses, and I sell my vegetables and produce and everything we make on our farm. I am a breast cancer survivor. This is extremely important to me. When these herbicides will wash through my property, it will destroy my fields, not just the water supply. This is a huge issue that needs input from you all. This issue, I have been to everyone asking for help. Everyone. Really, I did not expect to be speaking first. And we need you to pay attention. We need you to come out and look and see the destruction that's happening.
Thank you, Charlie.
And thank you very much for your time. Please make the effort to find out about industrial solar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, and Richard, I can't read your last name.
And seeing you for a long time.
Richard, will you spell your first and last name for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm Richard Cortese, Richard, I live in Little River, Texas, on the confluence. We live on the Little River farm, confluence of the Little River and Leon and Lampasas. I'm a former county commissioner and been set with y'all sometimes. I was an alternate to one of the board members at one time. I'm here to talk to you about what I consider a concern with solar operations. I don't call them farms because I farm and I don't consider that a farm. But Wayne's nodding there, appreciate that. What I see going on as a county commissioner, we had regulations for development and activities that were going on. There is nothing to oversight in this. If you go by and look at some of them, it looked like scorched earth. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but they're just pushing everything out of the way, flattening it out. As a farmer and a rancher, when we get excessive rains, you don't have water running off all the time. You've got natural detention in these fields. They're taking all of that out. They said they're going to use 2 people for about every 2,000 to 2,500 acres to manage the operation. I don't know what you do, but on foot, you're not going to work 2 people and take care of the vegetation and growth on 2,500 acres. It's not going to happen. Don't know what's going to happen. With erosion, their mismanagement, there's so much money being thrown at having these things being built that I am very concerned that we're not going to see enough oversight. You have a responsibility to manage the water. I understand that, worked with y'all on several different occasions. So if you would take time to investigate what's going on and try to work with us, we really appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. John Highsmith. Good morning, John. If you'll spell your name first and last for the record, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm John Highsmith, John Highsmith. I am from Pecan Plantation, which is outside of Granbury. It is a community of approximately 7,200 people on the Brazos River. I'm here to talk about very big concerns we have about a large solar facility they're attempting to put that in across the Brazos River from our community. And this will be a mega facility. It's 2 phases of it. Yellow Viking 1 is 1,187 acres, which is 1.855 square miles. Yellow Viking 2 is 2,476 acres. That is 3.87 square miles. So you put these 2 facilities or 2 phases together, that is a total of 5.725 square miles on the Brazos River. So we are very concerned about the erosion and the runoff into the Brazos River. And I want to read your mission statement. I looked at your strategic plan, and it says the BRA exists to develop, manage, and protect the water resources of the Brazos River Basin. So that's why I really decided to come here today. I want to first give you some information about other parts of the country where these facilities have caused severe problems with waterways. I'm going to give you 3 of them, very brief. One is there are 4 solar facilities in Alabama, Idaho, and Illinois, and a total of $1.34 million in civil penalties for violating the Clean Water Act. This was in November of 2022. And two of the facilities actually dumped soil into waterways. There's one, it happened in Massachusetts. This is in February 2021. The developer is going to pay $1.14 million for violations of federal stormwater requirements, and they damaged wetland resources, included the West Branch Mill River. And then number three, Stewart County, Georgia, near Columbus. And there was an award of $135 million to adjacent landowners because of the damage that a solar facility did to their property. So with that, now let's move on to Texas. I have an example. There's Hopkins Solar, Hopkins County, Texas, on the Sulphur River. There was but I want to talk to you about a resolution that was put out by the Sulphur River Board. And there are a few sections of this that I'd like to read because I think it is very applicable. And they said, whereas in
Time,
addition.
Mr. Smith, time is up. Thank you.
All right.
Emily Discal? If you'll spell your first and last name for the record, thank you.
First name is Emily, Emily. Last name is Doskosil, Doskocil. And my family farm is in Troy, Texas. It's been in my family since 1955. And I'll say I'm stupid when it comes to soil testing and all that. I don't know enough about it. But I do know what I have seen and read regarding the runoff, the damage, and I still honestly believe just because this is so new and everybody's so quick to jump on the solar bandwagon for green energy, I still don't understand that, honestly. There's not enough long-term testing at all. And I don't think anybody here can think that if it's toxic to make, we can't destroy the panels when they're done. You can't say that there's not going to be some sort of toxic runoff when it runs into our soil. Day after day, year after year, it's going to run like my property. The back part of my property is kind of up on a hill. It's going to run, all of our runoff is downhill into a creek, which feeds into the Brazos. The property behind me, if they get their way, there will be a solar farm behind me and up the right side, possibly the left. That homeowner or that landowner is not talking to me right now because nobody talks to each other. If you're in a solar agreement, you're not supposed to talk. My concern is my runoff is going to go straight into the creek behind me. That's going to be leveled flat. All this nasty toxic water is just going to cause flooding and erosion right into the creek, right into the Brazos River. And I don't think we know enough about this to move forward at the speed we're moving forward. I don't think anybody has a clue. I think eventually we might get there, but the way the solar industry is changing so fast, I think what we're attempting to do today is going to be obsolete in a few years. And at that point in time, all of this land is going to be destroyed and we are not going to be able to bring it back to what it currently is, which is some of the best land around for farmers. And I don't want to wake up someday and go out to my farm and see Robert, who leases my land to farm. I don't want to see him driving an electric tractor stuck in the mud with something flooded. I don't want Texas to be like California. That is my biggest fear. It keeps me up at night. And I don't want my land to be destroyed. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Joanna Frizzell? Joanna, if you'll spell your name for a record.
Give you homework. My name is Joanna Friebel, JoannaFriebele. And I'm here today, same as everybody else, about solar. And first, let me say, I think you all are doing a great job at keeping the waters clean. And I'd like you to continue to do that. And I'd like you to learn as much as you can about what's happening with solar. So I'm bringing you facts and figures today. That's my thing, facts and figures. And they lead to the conclusion that we do have an issue that we're looking at in the future, not too far in the future. And we need to start looking at it today. We don't need to leave it. We don't need to wait. We need to be ahead of the ballgame. Because let me tell you what's coming. Battery storage. This is just in the Brazos River Basin. Battery storage, 142 sites, over 12,000 containers, if they're 2 megawatts per container. Solar sites, 188 sites, that's 458,000 acres, and 182 million solar panels. Wind projects, 43, which if those wind turbines are 625 feet tall, that's over 2,000 of those dudes, and 400,000 acres. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at an immense problem that needs to be looked into before problems do occur. When you look at all these sites, and I've looked at many of them, they all include creeks, streams, rivers, which eventually flow into the Brazos. I live close to, I'm not going to be surrounded. I'm one of the lucky ones. But I do live close to 2 projects that flow into the Bosque River. What's not so troubling is single sites here and there may be okay, but what is really problematic, and I see as being an issue, is the accumulation of sites and the close proximity to each other and how they will impact our water systems. And there are other problems as well as that can affect the soil and the water. The heating, the wildlife changes, the elimination of biodiversity, the change from agriculture to fully industrial zones of thousands of acres running together, contiguous. There's also tremendous water usage to wash and cool the panels for best efficiency, if they do that. So what's this going to do to our water tables, surface waters, and runoff? You need to be aware. Everybody in this room needs to start thinking about it. We talked about the lawsuits. There are 4 EPA lawsuits that have been settled, 8 more pending on runoff and surface water violations. TCEQ, East Texas, Hopkins County has one on the books. This year, there has been over $300 million worth of damage to renewables.
Joanna, time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to leave this for you to hand out. There should be enough copies. And I will also leave this. It's reading back up. If anybody wants copies, they can make some.
Thank you. Wayne Tyrek. If you'll spell your name for us for the record. Thank you.
Wayne Tyrock, WayneTyroch. I'm here we don't really know all the effects of this solar farms. I farm in Bell and Milam County. I also work in a power plant. I farm also in partnership with another family. And I know as far as from working in a power plant, these batteries, and I also farm some land right next to just right across the fence from a solar farm. I have no earthly idea how many thousands of batteries there are. I know from working in a power plant, we have to self-contain all of these batteries, even on the ground. Everything has to be self-contained. I am worried since I farm right next to this farm, I do not like what I see. And I wish each and every one of y'all could go south of Seaton and see what I see. It is horrible. At first, when I've heard of this, I thought, well, maybe it's, they asked for 2,000 acres. Now, between Bell, Milam, and Falls County, they have 68,000 acres of good, rich, fertile farmland. As a farmer, I worry, where is our food supply going to come from? I am so worried about it. And when we go to visit my future daughter-in-law, driving through Austin, it takes truckloads of food each day. And it's not just Austin. There's Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Lubbock, El Paso. We're talking about truckloads and truckloads, and I worry where our food will come from. I talked to our commissioner. He said, oh, we'll just import it from Brazil. Really? We're feeding the world. We are feeding the world. And if we destroy all our land and we don't get no more food, do you think these other countries will sell food to us? They hate us. They hate Americans. They want us to see go down. So I worry about that. Also, I brought up the question earlier this winter after I'm watching the solar farm next to us. What is it? Is it going to raise the temperature up? It will. One of the guys I used to go to school with checked the temperature. It's 15 degrees hotter. So these farms that are still operating around, their crops will be destroyed or lowered. The yields will go down tremendously. Also, I am worried about the cancer effect of these solar farms. I listened to a nurse. I had cancer. I had it cut out of me. Luckily, I went early. So, I don't know where it came from. Maybe working in a power plant. But they did cut it out. Luckily, I don't have it. I'm free.
Wayne, thank you. Time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Robert Fleming.
Hand you this document, Madam President, of what my co-people were trying to tell you about the Sulphur River.
Thank you.
Fleming, ROBERT, I'm a corn, wheat, and cow-calf producer, multiple counties in central Texas. Would like to state that I'm also, our Texas Farm Bureau fought very diligently to get the major river authorities in our policy development book in Texas Farm Bureau to have major authorities have major regulations. All river authorities have major regulations on these solar arrays. As was mentioned here before, we have, nearly 1 million acres here leased in the state of Texas. I passed by several of the sites on my weekly cow checking adventures, and I see numerous of them how they are. But my topic is strictly water quality. Been on the Brazos River all my life, hunting and fishing, and boy, has it changed in the last 40 years. We don't have near the aquatic life. We don't have the fish that we once had, and we surely don't have the wildlife that really upsets me the waterfowl that upsets me the most. But what I'm asking you today, the Sulphur River Authority has written a letter to the governor that you have in your hand there on concerns of the site up in Hopkins County of what it's doing to possibly pollutants in the possible sedimentation going into their Sulphur River deal. And I can't, that's really got to be a huge issue. It's got to be a huge issue. I asked the River Authority to assign a committee to research these issues that have been discussed here in this panel, to go out and find out if it's misinformation or if it's really true. There's a lot of talk from major scientists, contamination and radiation from these panels in case they're busted because of a storm or a major catastrophe. We have lots of irrigation water going down south of Houston that a major food supply relies on for this irrigation water. And there's some talk about some radioactive crops possibly in the future. We do not know. It's a too new concept, but I plead to y'all research this to find out if it's true to protect our water supply and to protect the people of America, because this thing is far more complex and complicated than any of us realize in this room here. I promise you. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. I don't have any more cards. Do y'all? You agree? Okay. Thank y'all very much for coming today. We appreciate you.
Madam
Taking the
Chairman,
time.
point of order.
All
Madam
right,
Chair,
we'll move on to,
a point of order. I know we can't communicate, but I mean, you have this many citizens come address us about something I don't really know what's going on. And if you could look into this and give us some kind of report later on about what the issues are here, because our job is to protect the basin. And I'm not sure about all this, what they're saying, but if you could do something, let us know what's on the other side, what's happening.
We sure will.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
all right. I'll move to the first agenda item, report and possible discussion on General Manager, CEO, report by David Collingsworth, General Manager, CEO. David.
Thank you very much. For those of you that spoke and your time ran out, if you had handouts or something or more information that you wanted our board to see, if you'll get that to me or Lisa, or send it to information@brazos.org, I'll make sure that our directors get to see that, and that'll be a part of our information request that Director Bourne asked for. So good morning to everyone. We have a lot of business today. We have a room full, as you can see, and that's good to see. To start off, I would like to congratulate those directors that were reappointed. Director Henderson, Director Judy Crone, Director LaChance, Director Smith, and Director Wayne Wilson. Congratulations to you. It is truly an honor to have you on the board, and we appreciate what you bring to the board and your expertise and your dedication to our mission. Our two new board members, Director Kat Parks and Mike Kahn, will this week and next week will be confirmed through the Senate and hopefully will be with us in July. So you'll get to meet them soon. I want to just take a few seconds and publicly thank the BRA staff that presented or that worked on May the 6th on our Water Safety Awareness Day up at Lake Granbury. We receive life jackets, and this year we handed out over 200 life jackets to kids that are going to end up swimming in the lake or swimming in swimming pools, and that safety awareness and teaching people about water safety is a big thing up at Lake Granbury. So we had a lot of staff, too many to name, that donated their time, volunteered their time over the weekend to do that. We've given over 1,200 life jackets in the last 5 years. We started this right before COVID, and then COVID kind of interrupted us, and now we're kind of back on track. So that's a really neat event that we host. From a business standpoint, today begins the first time that you will, as a board, will begin to see our draft budget. We start our budget cycle really working on the numbers and looking at projects and preparing the budget book that you'll receive in June or July. We start that in November, so it's a tremendous amount of detail. But today you'll see just kind of a first look at what the system rate looks like for next year. Also, we'll show that to you today. Invites will go out real soon for our customer meetings. Directors will receive those invites. It's going to be June 20th in Cleburne, June 21st, Brushy Creek Mud down in near Round Rock. and then also on June 22nd in Rosenberg. Again, you don't have to write those dates down. We'll be getting invites to you and getting invites to our customers. And if you haven't been to those, it's a really good, unique opportunity for you to come meet some of BRA's customers and just listen to the dialogue on their concerns and what our system rate looks like moving forward in the future. So today, you're going to see, as typical, we're going to request authority for projects. And so many of those projects that we bring to the board are multi-year projects that last anywhere from 2 to 4 years, or with Allen's Creek may last 12 to 15 years. So at your request, we are working on, Blake's shop has done a really good job of preparing a project health process for us to present to you. It's on my desk waiting for my review. But what we don't do is come to the board very often and talk about all of the other work and all of the other projects that happen on an annual basis. So we're going to start today, and this is something that you'll see more routine at our board meetings. Our folks from Possum Kingdom are going to walk you through some of the projects that they do so that you can see some of the hard work that's going on an annual basis, not these multi-year projects. And I think what you'll see today is that there's an overwhelming amount of really hard work by experts that goes on a daily basis at the BRA that we're really proud of. Last but not least, a few of you have asked me if Matt Phillips was going to give a legislative update today. And because the agenda was so long, I actually cut that board agenda item. But he's in the bullpen over here. He's not scheduled to pitch today. But at break or at lunch, if you have legislative questions about what's going on down in Austin, feel free to ask Matt, and he'll answer any questions you have. So, presiding officer, that's all I have this morning. Good morning,
All right.
set, go.
David, thank you. And I also want to echo the team that you have put together is, they work so hard and they do such a good job. And we don't give your social media people enough credit because that safety day at Granbury and those pictures of the kids just smiling says it all. So thank you. And Matt is smiling over there too, so I'm sure he has equally as exciting news to share. Agenda item 2, discussion and possible action on Texas TCDRS by Crystal Wild, Human Resource Coordinator. Good morning.
So each year, HR presents the TCDRS proposed employer contribution rate for the next calendar year. This plan is separate from the frozen retirement plan that is the retirement committee's responsibility. Included with your convening materials were the summary valuation report and the plan year assessment, which provides the detailed information about the management of our plan with TCDRS. These are the demographics for the BRA's plan with TCDRS. This provides the comparison of the plan demographics from the year 2021 compared to the year 2022. As you can see, the plan funded ratio increased slightly from 90.5% up to 91.2%. And there was about a 3% increase in the number of participants in our plan. And our average age continues to decrease, while our average tenure decreased just slightly. Shows the history of the BRA employer contribution rates. As you can see, our rates were, they really were fairly smooth for about the past 10 years, up until 2022. And you may recall in 2021, the TCDRS Board of Directors voted to reduce the investment return assumption from 8% down to 7.5%. And they decreased the inflation assumption from 2.75% to 2.5%. That's similar to what the retirement committee did for the frozen plan in reducing those assumptions. Those changes will continue to affect our employer contribution rate. But in addition to that, the down investment market in 2022 resulted in actuarial investment loss. But because our average age continues to reduce. Our actual, the average age of the participants is decreasing so much, it actually resulted in a slight reduction of our rate. So TCDRS has proposed an employer contribution rate of 8.78%, which will begin on January 1st of 2024. We are not proposing any changes to the plan benefit provisions.
Crystal, I think there is a resolution for us. Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that the Texas County and District Retirement System, TCDRS, plan provisions for Brazos River Authority non-retirees remain the same for the 2024 plan year. And be it further resolved that the TCDRS plan provisions for Brazos River Authority retirees remain the same for the 2024 plan year. And be it further resolved that the required TCDRS employer contribution rate will be 8.78% for the 2024 plan year.
You've heard a reading of the resolution. There's a motion to adopt made by Jen Henderson, second made by Jared Smith. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Hubert,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Gordon,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Kesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item 3, discussion and possible action on the Cordova Bend Dam inspection contract by Blake Keller, Technical Services Manager. Blake.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. So with this agenda item, I'll be requesting authorization to move forward with the execution of a contract for inspection services at Day Cordova Bend for a period of 5 years to maintain compliance from a regulatory perspective. As you may recall, we brought forth a similar authorization at the January 2023 meeting for Morris Shepherd Dam, so this is the second one we'll be working towards in the future, trying to do the same thing for Sterling C. Robertson Dam. This initiative is covered under goals, objectives, and strategies to be within the strategic plan. So, So by default, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, is the regulatory authority for dam owners in the state of Texas. The statutory requirement as seen here in the Texas Administrative Code, or TAC Chapter 299, is enforced by the TCEQ by legislation. Chapter 299 of the TAC requires dam owners to perform inspection services on an annual basis and 5-year basis for large high-hazard dams. This classification of the dam, which is performed by TCEQ, is based on the size of the dam, the impounded water amount, and the hazards downstream. Based on this criteria, Day Cordova Bend Dam is classified as a large high-hazard dam, which in turn means more inspection and monitoring requirements for the owner, in this case BRA. In addition to routine inspection services such as daily, monthly, quarterly, and extraordinary event inspections that are performed by our operations staff, there are more extensive requirements to perform on an annual inspections and 5-year comprehensive inspection to include surveying parameters at Day Cordova Bend Dam. But even though this is a requirement by TCEQ, the extra set of eyes are welcomed from an audit perspective to make sure we're doing things properly as we should out there on the dam. BRA procured these services separately on a year-to-year basis through separate solicitations and contracts. While this was effective, the continued rise in inflation has proven difficult to procure these services under certain contracting mechanisms previously utilized due to purchasing limits. With that in mind, BRA is pursuing combining these efforts into one contract for a 5-year term, so it will include 4 annual inspections and 1 5-year inspection. This will provide an opportunity to procure these services under one solicitation, which will increase efficiency from a procurement standpoint while allowing an external engineer to develop a relationship with the facility or dam the findings, the recommendations, and implementation of those corrective measures for a period of 5 years. Moving forward in that manner, in accordance with statutory requirements and the purchasing procedure, BRA advertised RFP number 2204-1253 and received 5 proposals in response, as seen here. Proposals were evaluated internally by operations and engineering staff, specifically on the firm's background information, experience, similar work performed, proposed team qualification, team's experience, project approach, quality control methodology, and resource availability. After the evaluation process, we selected Schnabel Engineering LLC and then began scope and fee negotiations, which I'll cover the scope at a high level here. So for the annual inspection, it's a little bit more dialed down than the comprehensive 5-year inspection. It's more of an audit of our internal process, so to guarantee safe and efficient operation of our facility. The engineer will perform a records review of BRA's dam operation, maintenance, and internal inspection reports. They'll review our O&M plan for the facility, so how the facility is operated, for instance, like gate sequencing or something along those lines. Also, they will perform a visual inspection of the facility and then draft a dam maintenance inspection report that's reviewed and commented on internally by BRA. So any of those recommendations, anything out of that will be recorded in our recommendation register. Randall McCartney, the PK reservoir manager, sorry, I'm getting stumped on his title. He'll get up here and talk to you in a minute about some of the work that they're doing here. A lot of those findings in those reports materialize in the work they're doing there on the ground. So for the 5-year inspection report, or the 5-year comprehensive inspection, this will be performed in 2025. And here's kind of a high look at the of the scope of services. We'll begin with a review of project records, which at a minimum entails reports and supporting documents, such as prior inspection reports. They'll look at the emergency action plan, other assessments that have been done for the facility, not necessarily related to just the annual or 5-year inspections, but other things. If we have other projects that formulate into a report, they'll take a look at those, and then any instrumentation data that we have for the facility. The engineer will also conduct a site inspection with emphasis in all necessary disciplines, so geotechnical, mechanical, corrosion, structural, hydrologic, civil, instrumentation, and industrial hygiene. I know that's a lot to digest, but just wanted to let you know we're looking at it from many different aspects. They'll perform a precision survey of the facility, which takes place at night to receive accurate readings. This is a very detailed survey. They're shooting points on the dam. Even the heat waves during the day can throw off what they're getting back as far as where the dam sits, but just checking, make sure everything's where it should be. They'll also perform a downstream range line survey looking for downstream movement of the facility, any changes to the sealing basin or downstream features of the facility. Then draft a dam inspection report and survey reports, which are then reviewed internally and commented on. Ultimately, when those are finalized, they're forwarded to TCEQ for their review and comment. So here's what the proposed fee breakdown for the contemplated services look like for the 5-year contract. So tasks 1, 2, 4, and 5 are for your annual inspections, and then task 3 is for the 5-year inspection. So just to give you a little insight on how we look into these fees that we receive, it's quite extensive. So we look at hourly rates per position, level of effort for a given task, what resource or position is doing the work and their associated level of effort. How does this compare to prior year's fees, and also looking at the current market and what we're seeing for similar work and the cost of it. So with that said, we've evaluated this fee and believe it to be reasonable based on those parameters, and the total not to exceed for the 5-year contract is $950,796. The contemplated services will then be approved, are within our approved budget amount, and then will be budgeted on an annual basis within the O&M budget. And I have a resolution for consideration, but I'll take any questions prior.
Mr. Lattimore.
Glenn, I've actually got a couple of questions. My first one has more to do with the feeding and care of your vendors. How do you handle the unsuccessful bidders, what sort of feedback do you give them as far as why you didn't select them in the process? Do you do any counseling with them to say, this is why we didn't select your particular proposal?
We usually don't. So here's kind of how that works. We'll send them a letter letting them know, hey, you haven't been selected for this project or solicitation we're moving out with. Majority of the time, 95% of the engineering firms or different groups that we work with, they understand, they get it. This is an area that they work in, so they roll on to the next solicitation. If there is some feedback that is requested, usually what we try to do is hit it at a high level, not necessarily on this particular solicitation, how you compare to the others that propose, but more of a level of, hey, here's what we look for in solicitation. So maybe that will help them, pursue work with BRA in the future.
I do, some of the companies that I own do lots of government contracting, and you might consider, we actually, a lot of the governmental entities that we bid to actually produce a report card.
Okay.
And it'll have maybe 8 or 10 areas that are considered, and will score each bidder accordingly on that scorecard. And we use that feedback then as we do other proposals. And I don't want to take the board's time here, but you might consider, I think you'll be more successful if you give better feedback for those folks. Now, under my real question, how does this pricing compare? I would think that this inspection process is used by many other authorities. How does this pricing compare to the costs that other river authorities are seeing for doing inspections?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So it varies a lot across the board. So we've talked with other river authorities, other entities doing this. Everybody's scope of work varies a little bit different. We try to have it as detailed as possible. We really like to have that external expertise look at it to make sure, there's not something, when you look at a facility day in, day out, there might be things that maybe you don't tend not to catch your eye after a point. So we really have them comprehensive service come in and look at our facilities. So it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges. One thing that we did do was look at the fee that was proposed for Moore Shepherd Dam, which let me see, I think I have it here. I think the total contract amount was at 1.3 million for that one. That is a lot larger facilities. There's more monitoring requirements, but kind of where that's set in relation, also looking at those other parameters, that's kind of how we determined if this was a reasonable fee.
Thank you very much. Nothing further.
All right. Director Luton?
Yes, sir.
When will this project begin?
So immediately after this, so as soon as we get out of here, we will we'll try to work through getting a contract executed and try to get them out there. Of course, 2023 being the annual maintenance inspection, so they've got to get out there, inspect the facility, and get us a report, work through any comments, all that type of stuff to have that done by the end of the calendar year.
Director Henderson had a question, comment.
Sure, thank you. Blake, how does this compare to what we've paid in the past from a fee perspective and a scope perspective?
So I actually pulled those numbers just in anticipation for that question. So the previous Day Cordova Bend Dam 5-year inspection was right at about $230,000, which that's been a significant amount of time. And as y'all know, prices have just gone through the roof for stuff. So still looking at the level of effort, the hours proposed there, it all still seems in line from that perspective. Annual inspections, we were doing those under an IDIQ contract, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. There's some limitations on dollar amounts that we can execute service orders under that. And we were getting an inspection done, but I think it was a dialed down inspection. Basically, we had engineering firms doing it, for lack of a better term, almost at a loss, just to keep that business going with BRA. So kind of doing our homework and saying, hey, we need to kind of open this up to make sure we're getting the detail that we need and the quality we need in these inspection reports. We pursued it under a separate solicitation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Director Savage has.
Hey, Blake, I also have, kind of a keen interest in our bidding process because, in the past we've struggled to get, larger. I'm glad that we had 5. Mm-hmm. And I do think it is important, like Director Latimer said, that, we help them get better so that, we have a stronger base of, bidders in upcoming, proposals, especially with big things like Allen Creek. So if there is some way, I just want to clarify that I understand it properly. So what we do is we do a technical evaluation among those 5 without a cost element in that decision criteria. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then we negotiate with the winner. So he basically, once he wins technically, then he's got exclusivity on the cost negotiation.
Yes, sir.
Which is fine. And then we did a multiple year because we wanted to scare, was there a hope that there would be a benefit, financially by doing multiple years and then having that stability? It doesn't sound like we got that, but of course, I know prices are up, so. But
Yes, if I may, there is a cost savings internally to doing that way. If we send these out as separate solicitations, as separate evaluations, scope and fee negotiations, it's a cumbersome process. And then, you get to the 10th yard line and you've got a scope developed and you can't come to terms on a fee, and then you're back to square one. So there is a benefit in doing it this way. I also think there's a benefit in having, not necessarily saying you want the same engineer for 10, 20 years out there, but for a 5-year term to see, the findings, making sure those are being implemented, and then they're there for the next annual or 5-year inspection to make sure, keep that track record looking good from that end of things. So I do see a benefit from that perspective.
I think it was good that we did it like this way. And I think it is essential to have a cold eyes review because you can't keep looking at your own stuff. You just won't find it.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I think if we could add some component of educating those who were unsuccessful bidders so that they said, we would like for you to go back and work a little harder in this area, so they have a report card on what they can, and then they believe that they have the chance, to win next time because they know what they can go work on. Then we'll have more bidders and we'll have more competition, and that's good for us.
Okay.
Thanks, Blake.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Fernandez.
Blake, thanks for all the information. Just if you could go into a little bit of detail, you touched on some of the aspects of the 5-year inspection. How is that different from the annual inspections?
So they will have, I kind of hinted to all the different disciplines out there. They'll have a lot of different folks. We'll actually do some diving on the dam, so looking at it upstream side of the dam. And Jeremy with Schnabel here is in the audience. Jeremy, wave to the directors. Are we diving downstream on this facility here? I know we do it more Shepherd Dam.
No, I think the dive underwater inspection is limited to the low flow.
To the low flow, okay. So it's a lot more detailed process. The annual inspections, and this is similar like to what you'll see previously working for the Corps of Engineers. When you go out there, it's kind of a visual walkthrough. Everybody's just looking at stuff, seeing if anything pops out of them. When you hit, and they do a period inspection, which is every 10 years, which would be similar to our 5-year. It's very detailed. They're going to get into every nook and cranny and take pictures and measurements and make sure everything's good from that end of things. Also, I kind of hinted at review of those past reports and everything, but those reports sometimes can be 200, 300 pages a piece, and stacks of those. It takes them a while to get through there to understand the history of the facility, where they should be, focusing their inspection services. So it's just a lot more detailed process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I guess, are we doing more on the annual inspection? Are we doing more than a walk around and look from a visual aspect?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're doing more than that. It's just comparing it's, the two of them. It's a lot less detailed from the inspection side of things than you would get with the comprehensive, but still feeling comfortable with what they're looking at and the recommendations and findings that they're developing out there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Blake, thank you. I just want to also piggyback off of what Director Lattimore and Director Savage were talking about. So number one, kudos to you for getting 5 bids because, 8 years ago, we were not getting 5 bids. So whatever you're doing to ask for bids, that's good. But we've also had this conversation a couple of times about how are you responding to the people who are not getting the bids? Today's response was the same one that we got before. So if you'll work with your team and David to come up with some process, and I think that's something that we want to know is, how is it that you're responding to these people to keep that line of communication open so that way we encourage more people to bid in the future and know that there's that open communication.
Yes, ma'am, more
All right.
information.
So go ahead and read the resolution.
This River Authority is pursuing external comprehensive inspection services for De Cordova Bend Dam, including all disciplines necessary to meet and maintain compliance with the inspection and reporting requirements of Texas Administrative Code, TAC 299.42, and regulated by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, for high hazard and large dams. Whereas the contemplated inspection efforts are in addition to internal inspections performed by Brazos River Authority staff to ensure safety and proper operation of our dam facilities from an unbiased external viewpoint. Previously, external comprehensive inspection services for De Cordova Bend Dam were acquired through separate contracts, but to improve efficiency from a procurement standpoint and to maintain compliance from a procurement, statutory, and policy perspective, these services have now been combined. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate and execute a contract with Schnabel Engineering, LLC, for engineering services required to complete the annual inspections and 5-year inspection in a 5-year term for De Cordova Bend Dam for an amount not to exceed $950,796.
We've heard the reading of the resolution. There's a motion made by Director Wilson and a second made by Director LaChance. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Boren.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Geezy.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Jimenez.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Lattimore.
Yes.
Director Lloyd.
Yes.
Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Embro.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Smith.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 4, report and possible discussion on environmental lab design update by Tiffany Malzahn, Environmental and Compliance Manager. Tiffany.
Well, obviously, I'm not Tiffany. And obviously, these aren't my slides. Tiffany's under the weather today. She would sure love to be here. This is something that's near and dear to her heart. It's something that's near and dear to my heart also. Having been here almost 30 years and spent a lot of time working in the laboratory. I'm not going to go through all of her slides. We're not asking for any action today. We're just, I'm just going to give you a brief update on a project that's been going on for a couple of years. This is one that truly got sidetracked because of COVID. We were looking at how to increase our laboratory space and our ability to perform more samples and do even a more complete job in looking at water quality protection. The Clean Rivers Program Act came along in 1991. And what that is it's a fee-based program where all point source discharges in the state of Texas, as part of their permit renewal, annually pay a fee to the TCEQ, and then those dollars are divvied up and given to river authorities and a few other entities to do water quality monitoring. And we have virtually since 1994, when we received our first contract, spent millions of dollars throughout the basin, taking samples and understanding what's going on with water quality. Right now, I think we get about $700,000 a year to do water quality monitoring, so it's not an insignificant amount of money. These are what those water quality samples look like from the perspective of who takes them. And one of the things that the BRA, actually, I'll give Tiffany credit for this because this was really her idea. Years ago, it was not uncommon for a Brazos River Authority to pull up on a site to monitor, and another organization, entity, EPA, TCQ, the Institute at Tarleton, Baylor University, to pull up at the same time to collect a sample. And what a waste of resources. So what Tiffany does every year, she hosts a meeting here with all of the different facilities throughout the Brazos Basin that submit data to the TCEQ database, and they determine who's going to monitor where and what, so that there's never a duplication of effort, and the limited resources that are out there for environmental monitoring really get optimized. So you can see the BRA's footprint in collecting these samples. The key to the biological data is when you go to a site on the stream and you take a sample and you take it back to the lab and thousands of dollars of analysis are run, that really gives you a snapshot of water quality that day. The biological monitoring that they're doing is they're going into the stream and they're counting and collecting aquatic macrophytes, aquatic bugs, aquatic insects, and they're using those population diversities and those populations to determine stream health. So we learn so much from collecting that type of data, because what's living in the stream really gives you an indication of how healthy the stream is. So we spend a lot of time doing that. The use of the data from TCEQ, we have to have different trainings and different certifications to submit this data. TCEQ will use our data for regulatory purposes. It can be submitted to a court of law, where if you don't have these trainings and these certificates, that data may not be submissible. So you can see there's a lot of different uses for the data that we collect. And then it ends up, you can go on BRA's webpage, or you can go on TCEQ's webpage and extract the data, but this is something that we do to show folks the data that we're collecting and impairments, and this is just one small watershed, the Yawa Creek watershed of the Brazos. And you can see there that whatever stream that is impacted by both bacteria, and it looks like dissolved oxygen issues, which could come from nutrient loading and stuff like that. So anyway, we just go, we give different analysis, and we're able to show folks the impairments. These impairments are based on criteria developed by either EPA or TCEQ. Other uses of that data, our customers use it, engineering firms use it, other departments use it. We look at it when we're looking at wastewater treatment plant discharge permits and other things that impact the water that BRA supplies to its customers. Our current laboratory, quite candidly, when the BRA was considering what to do with this building, when it built this building, I think the concept was to have the laboratory outside of the central office. So we really have insufficient space. We have no room for growth. We have probably over $1 million worth of high-tech computers that analyze the data, and just no room to grow. So what we're looking at is creating a new laboratory. We started the feasibility study in 19, COVID happened in 20. The feasibility was completed in 2021. Then we brought the concept back to the board in 2022 and got your approval to move forward with the design. The project's on budget. We're about 90% complete with design. I'll show you a timeline of where we're going in the future. We're looking at almost 11,000 square foot laboratory with some additional space and boat storage. And the boat storage also it provides us the ability to do some of our analysis in a less clean environment. We're dedicating the building to Fill Forward in July, and here's what the new Fill Forward complex would look like if we're able to move forward and can get satisfied with what we're building and get your approval. Obviously, you can see, do I have a pointer? You can see there to the left of the central office, the first big building would be the laboratory, and then the next building would be the boat storage and places that we can do some of the insect stuff and sediment stuff outside. Just a brief glance at the features of the laboratory. As far as the safety goes, it allows us to be more separate from the central office as far as vents go and, dealing with chemicals and stuff like that. Features of the boat storage, what I was trying to say a minute ago is that it also allows us to we do sediment analysis, and it's a pretty loud process of pumps, and it's pretty dirty, and it allows us to get out. That's what Justin's doing over there in the two pictures in the left. And then we have boats and other equipment that we store off-site because we simply don't have the room to do that here. So it would certainly be a luxury to be able to have that and save staff time. The estimate right now for the laboratory is about $9.8 million. It's self-explanatory, contingency on what we would look at. I don't want to take that to you. And then the next steps, hopefully this summer, we'll get comfortable enough with the final design to go out for a request for bids, and then we would come back to the board for approval and authorization in the fall, and then break ground sometime this winter if everything is successful and both staff approve where we're headed, and then the board approves and concurs with where we're headed also. So on behalf of Tiffany Malzahn, there you have it. Any question for me?
So, a question real quick. Right now, we contract with a lot of people to do that, so we'll be able to bring that in-house?
Answer that question. I don't know how much that we contract out. Maybe some of the metals analysis. Do I have anybody with the lab here with me today? Okay, no, I'll have to get an answer to that question for you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Director Henderson, did you have a question?
I do. So you said this is 90% complete in design. Where are we in the permitting process? Has that started? Where are we?
So we have not started because we don't have a final product to permit, but we have sat down with the city of Waco to figure out what permits are going to be needed and how we would move through that process since this is more than just a commercial type building.
How long do you anticipate the permitting process taking?
90 days.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just something the city can approve.
Sure.
And I don't think it took, when we researched, I don't think it took any longer for us to do this building with that laboratory in it.
Director Savage has a question?
Thank you.
Hey, David, the pie graphs and that data, that's public data, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So just for our guests here, if you want to get a baseline, in a existing condition, that data is available out there. And so, it's there for you to use. And that's really important for any subsequent conversations you want to have.
Not only is the data available on an annual basis, we put it into a Clean Rivers Program Assessment Report for TCQ on an annual basis. So you don't have to shuffle through the data. You can just go look at the reports. And it's kind of like I showed you, there's color-coded maps of impairments and stuff like that.
Thank you, David.
Thank y'all.
It's 10:07. We'll take a 15-minute break. Thank you. Resume back in session with agenda item number 5, report and possible discussion on Reservoir System Maintenance Unit, RSMU projects by Randall McCartney, Reservoir Manager at Possum Kingdom Lake.
Good morning, presiding officer, members of the board, and fellow staff members.
Let me interrupt you, Randall.
Sorry. Already.
What you're fixing to see is the BRA at its best. Our water's not what's important. Our people are what is important. And at all hours of the night when water has to be released from a gate, or all hours of the day when water has to be released out of these gates, Possum Kingdom's almost 100 years old, and it works because we have the expertise and knowledge and dedication to make it happen. And what you're fixing to see are those projects that I talked about that go on day after day after day, and they're not long multi-year projects. But this group that he's fixing to introduce you to is absolutely first class and makes BRA first class.
Thank you, Mr. Collinsworth. So again, good morning, presiding officer, members of the board, fellow staff members. As Mr. Collinsworth has mentioned, this presentation is going to be to highlight the RSMU group that we have at Possum Kingdom Lake. This group is made up of 17 workers. They consist of welders, painters, blasters, concrete workers, and this team performs the maintenance on Possum Kingdom Dam. But before we get into this, I would kind of like to introduce, if you guys will let me, a couple of the key personnel that we have. First, David Noyola. He is the superintendent for RSMU. David, stand up, please. Thank you. Zane Bridges, he is our maintenance foreman. And Heath, he is our concrete foreman. And last but not least, doesn't work in RSMU, but works directly with RSMU, is our project manager, program coordinator, Troy Weatherhead. And so with those introductions and that staff, they are definitely the heartbeat of RSMU. So I would like to get into our projects and kind of talk about some of the things that they've accomplished and or currently working on or will be working on in the near future. So here, the first one that I have listed is Castle Bay 8, second level walkway, the bridge concrete repair. You guys are very familiar with the Castle project, and we'll get into that here in a little bit more in detail. But this here is just a list of some of the projects that we are going to be working. So again, the concrete assessment and service life extension, that is, you guys have seen this over the course of time. It's a 3-phase analysis that was completed. And basically, Gannett Fleming completed this and now has given us the repair manual, so to speak, to go and make these corrections that we find or that we see periodically through inspections on the dam. This is a picture here of the Bay 8 walkway. So the picture on the far left is exposed rebar and delaminated concrete. Basically, it's exposing some of the good concrete now that's there. Our guys have went in the center picture, and so what they've done is they've put up the forms and mocked that up, and they've come in, and all that concrete there that they have to utilize is got to be hand mixed and poured right there on the site. So it's pretty labor intensive with scaffolding and different things of that nature. And then the picture on the far right is after those forms have been removed, and that's the final product under that particular area, and they're still continuing to work some of that Bay 8 walkway. Again, this is Bay 31. The concrete repairs is part of phase 4. So now that the 3 phases have been done, we are in the work portion of it where our team is jumping in, and they're the ones that are making these repairs. The SkyTrack to the left is roughly approximately 40 feet up in the air. The destructive investigation was initiated on deck panel 6. And so the process that they utilized here was hammer sounding, ground penetrating radar, which some of you just know as GPR, and also with core samplings. They had to remove the old concrete where they found there were issues, and so they came back and then formed it up to where they could re-pour new concrete and tie into existing steel with new rebar. another project that they're doing here. This is still part of Bay 31. However, this is Buttress 32. And the thing that I want to capture with this castle, not only just give you some visuals of what they've done and the work that's being performed, but the cost breakdown. So for these two concrete repairs, roughly 1,500 labor hours, labor costs of roughly $37,000, material costs of just over $8,000 for a total cost of $45,000. There's no doubt in my mind that if we had to go out to a firm outside of the BRA, that this number would be significantly higher. I won't go too much into detail because this is another project that's on the agenda for later this afternoon. However, I did want to highlight a few things. This project will install the new pump and piping, which will allow for operation of the bear trap gates during low lake levels. And this project is now going to complete gates 5 through 9. Gates 1 through 4 were previously completed under the miscellaneous improvement project. However, the tie-in on gates 2 and 3, the chamber, were not completed, and that will be completed during this process. And KCI is the engineering firm, which you all will hear a little bit more about here later. And then this project also takes a lot of coordination with TPWD in the fish hatchery because these lines will feed to the fish hatchery as well. The next project here is the flow control gate replacement project. The engineering design performed by Gannett Fleming and the construction will be performed by our team at RSMU. So all the work will be done in-house. BRA has the 100% final design drawings, and we're currently working on procurement of new slide gates, actuators, and material. This project will also replace the old 240 volt actuators to 480 volt actuators. And this will help increase efficiency as well. Another project that our team has completed successfully, the crane barge rehab, that's performed roughly every 5 years by the RSMU folks. There's a lot that goes into this. I mean, that's a pretty big piece of equipment that just sits out in front of our gates. So they have to build an earth ramp to take it off. They move the crane barge over to the uncontrolled spillway, drive the crane off of it, and then they disassemble it. It disassembles in 17 pieces, and once they disassemble it, they evaluate what kind of work needs to be done. Re-welding, sandblasting, painting, recoating, all of that stuff. So once they do that, and everything has been completed and back in place, they have to go in reverse order and put it back in front of the dam. The thing I want to highlight with this is without that crane barge, zero work gets done on that dam. That crane barge is extremely important for the work that they do. And the other thing that I really want to capitalize on is our guys did that in 8 months. They were 4 months ahead of schedule. So again, kudos to the work that they do, juggling time schedule, other projects, Mother Nature, folks being out on leave, whatever that is, our guys have stepped up to the occasion and they've really excelled. So I'm proud of them. Again, this is just working across the bow here, interagency stuff. Lake Granbury needed help with a stop log. Our guys stepped up to the task. RSMU was asked to fabricate a new stop log. The existing stop log there at Granbury was kind of old and dilapidated, and that's the picture on the left. And it makes it really hard to get into and make repairs. So our guys, thinking outside of the box, went ahead and said, we can do that. And so they created the new stop log, but the one there in the middle, it's single-sided and has structural support I-beams, which will allow for the surface to be a lot more accessible. And again, I want to capitalize on labor cost was a little over $14,000 and material cost was a little over $4,000. So again, our guys not only did that, but the time, effort, and energy to have hired an outside firm to do that would have been extremely, in my opinion, a lot more costly. Gate 2 pier plate walls. I wanted to show and depict some of these pictures here, and then I'll get into Gate 4 because we are already on Gate 4. So if some of you are like, well, I thought we were already on Gate 4. We are on Gate 4. But however, Gate 2, I really want to show in this the cost savings and the utilization of RSMU crew. most board members might remember some of these projects as a side seal project. But some of the things that go into working on this dam and these gates, they have to set the bulkhead system, which will allow them a safe place to work behind to do the work that they need to do. They have to obviously utilize ground penetrating radar to scan and locate rebar, construction and installation of stainless steel walls, grout backfill behind the stainless steel walls. Then they also have to sandblast, metallize, and recoat any of the gate leafs that may have issues that they're having issues with them, and then install the gate seals, and then remove the bulkhead system so that if that gate needs to be utilized again, it'll be fully operational and functional at that point in time. Again, these are just some more photos of the work that our team has done out there. We have learned, they have learned over the course of time with how to stop the warpage on the stainless steel. That was a big challenge that we had initially with Gate 2. Our team has found ways to expedite how to get the steel fabricated into the designs that they need it to be without warpage. The things I really want to capitalize on this, if you'll just bear with me here, please. Labor hours, roughly 6,800 hours. Labor cost, $172,000. Material cost, $134,000. Sandblasting media, a little over $14,000. Paint cost, $21,000. Zinc wire, over $19,000 for a total cost of $361,000. But the cost to perform this task per Gannett Fleming Incorporated, their cost analysis showed this repair alone to be $1.4 million. So RSMU saved, on this project alone, they saved the BRA over $1.1 million. We have additional 8 gates to go. We're on the second one of the 9. However, our team has really found ways to expedite and speed up the process in a safe manner to where everything that we're doing is still safe and functioning for the dam. And the last slide I have here, I feel like our team completes projects in a timely manner. We reduce the construction cost immensely. We lessen contractor construction challenges, increase staff to address contractor issues. I believe that we have superior work. We have retained knowledgeable and very skilled workforce, and I'm very proud of our team. Maybe in the future, I could see that this would be implemented at other locations throughout the Brazos River Authority, and then promote programmatic approach organization-wide. So that's just kind of my takeaways from that. But the biggest takeaway that I have from everything is our crew, they step up to every single challenge that they've ever been asked, and I'm very proud of them. Sure.
Troy Weatherhead, Project Manager, Possum Kingdom. I just want to add a couple things. When he talked about the crane barge rehab, we brought that up 18 months early. Oh, sorry. We brought that crane barge rehab up 18 months early because we had an open window in our overall project schedule so that it wouldn't delay projects down the road. So on top of them doing it in 8 months, we actually did it a year and a half ahead of schedule to free us up for these other projects that are coming up. And with the Granbury stop log, from the time Granbury dropped the old stop log off to the time we dropped the new one off at Granbury was a little over 3 weeks. We fabricated, designed, painted everything in-house at PK, just to show how well RSMU does their work over there.
On top of their other projects, obviously, that they're still currently working. You're welcome. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Comments, quite a few hands. We're going to start with Director Embro.
Yes, sir.
Randall, I have to say, I've been here a little over 2 years. That was the most impressive presentation I've seen since I've been on the board. Couple of questions. Number one, how big is your crew? And it looks like you guys can do pretty much anything as it relates to maintenance. When do you decide what to do in-house and what to have a contractor do? How do you make those decisions?
Thank you, first of all, for the comments and for the support in these guys in the presentation. So we have 17 folks that work for RSMU directly. And these guys, to be honest with you, Director, there's not many things that I don't believe in them that they can't do. They will come to us and say, hey, this is out of our wheelhouse, we just can't do it. But I think one thing that we've done in the last 3+ years since I've been at the helm at PK, there's only been one thing that I'm aware of that they've said, hey, I would like to go outside source with this. So to answer your question, I think the sky is the limit.
Thank you. Director Lattimore.
Well, I'm a little peculiar in that I happen to live there at the lake, and so I've had a chance to observe these guys up close and personal, I guess. I'd call your attention to a couple of things. I don't know whether you noticed, in the pictures that Randall showed, I'm always impressed because you can see the form marks when they built that dam. Those were the original form marks, and I have pictures that I can show you. The guys who built that dam built it with a Fresno. It's an old mule drawn Fresno back from the 30s. This team of individuals that Randall's talking about, your first temptation is to say, well, it'd probably be cheaper to go out and hire some contractors to do the work that these fellows do. But I guarantee you there's nobody in the business that has the expertise that these guys have. I challenge you to go out and find somebody anywhere, anytime that can do the work that these fellows do. I'll hold them up against anybody. And the Morris Shepherd Dam is peculiar, but I would agree with Randall. I think there is the opportunity to expand this expertise in that it's very peculiar. The work that they do is very peculiar to our specific needs. I don't know of a contractor anywhere that has the kind of expertise that we find in the RSMU.
Yes, sir.
RSMU unit. So hats off to these guys for the work that they do.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much.
And to your point about the press that they do, our guys still, to this day, with the repair work that they made inside the buttress, they made it look just like it. The only thing that looks different is that it's newer concrete. So they had the attention to detail to go ahead and make the rest of it look symmetrical as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Giese.
Yes, ma'am.
So I agree with the director over what he said. It's very impressive what you just heard. So much so that probably those of us who own our own companies would want to go steal your guys away from you.
Please don't.
But, so these repairs that they're doing, this is my question. So Gannett Fleming presents you a report and says this is what needs to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
So as it's being done, does Gannett Fleming come back out and look at the repairs and say, gives their stamp of approval? Does anybody else look at it and say, yes, these repairs were done right?
Yes, ma'am. Initially, they have done that, and now I think that we have built the rapport to where our guys are trustworthy enough with even an outside engineering firm that we can pick up the phone and call them. And we still do that from time to time. And so they will present the issues and the challenges that they've seen, and they will present that to Gannett Fleming, and there's constant communication back and forth. And we've gotten to a point to where Gannett Fleming, our guys have even recommended ulterior fixes to certain things, and Gannett Fleming has accepted those. So again, that's just a testament to our team.
Good job.
Director Huber.
I may be reiterating a little bit of what some of you said, but as I was reading through the agenda items last night, this one really popped out at me. Not that surplus property isn't important, but I'm amazed that we have a team of people with these kind of skills that can do what an expensive engineering firm can do, only so much cheaper. So I think it's wonderful that we have your team. And I can see us expanding on that in the future. It's wonderful. They're just amazing.
I appreciate it.
Nice. Director Boren.
Just real quick.
Yes, sir.
The lifespan of this concrete on these dams, and you mentioned 100 years, how long is this concrete going to hold up? It starts really breaking. But quick answer, I don't want to delay anything here.
So fortunately, the core samples that have been taken, our dam is still very solid. So from that standpoint, we're very fortunate that the guys that built this dam back in 38 through 41 did their job. Yeah. But the part of this concrete assessment is to continue to test this and look and move forward and make the necessary repairs as we see fit and as are needed.
Okay.
And Director Crum.
Mirror everybody's sentiment that has expressed anything, and I definitely say thank you to you and your staff for everything, those present and those not present. I don't have an engineering background,
So this is my simplistic question. When you were talking about the castle there at the first, that project, and when you showed us the before, the during, and the after pictures.
Yes, ma'am.
And then here's this very nice repair of concrete. In my mind, I'm picturing that as something similar to on your skin when you have a cut or something and you have a scab and then it heals properly. And then it's actually stronger than what was there before. Is it that way with the concrete? Like, is that now a very, very strong piece of concrete? And now the concrete pieces around it don't have quite as much strength? Or how would you compare the two?
Yes,
That's what
ma'am. I believe exactly what you just mentioned and alluded to is correct. I mean, our guys have even went back and put additional steel and or rebar in those parts and tied all that back together. So it's just as strong, if not stronger, which will help reduce some of the strain around those areas that have been repaired.
And so then it's holding it up, and it's a little bit stronger, and it'll take some of the strain off of the other.
In theory, yes, ma'am.
In theory. And so then with time, as it's all checked, if one of those others becomes weaker and in need, then it would be the next one to go through that kind of a repair or facelift or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for a very clear explanation and an excellent presentation. Your before, during, and after pictures are just spot on. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And your work.
Director Savage.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, great job, but workforce development is so essential right now in every industry. And so we have these people and, how about a training program? As long as we can keep others busy, we certainly should grow our own. And because what's available outside is the quality and the safety is just getting worse and worse. So if we can keep them busy, I strongly advocate for us doing this at the other dams and then somehow having them so that these guys can kind of pass on this knowledge so it's carried on.
Yes, sir. I agree 100%.
All right, I'm going to just make the final comment, and then we're going to go on to the next agenda item. What you do, priceless, literally. So thank you for your commitment to the mission of the BRA and for all of you do and your team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, agenda item number 6, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2024, proposed annual operating plan by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning. This is, echo what David just said earlier at the beginning. I won't repeat what he said, but the key here is this is our proposed budget. So if you have questions during the budget or even afterwards, get back with David or myself and we'll answer it. And before the July board meeting where you'll have to approve it. What I want to do is kind of walk through the system rate and how it's calculated. And let's just start off with the operating expenses for the water supply. There it went up about $3 million. And in there is your salaries and benefits. There's an increase in the Army Corps of Engineers expenses from last year to this year. And remember, the Army Corps of Engineers expenses are what we pay them to help maintain their 8 core lakes in the basin. Next is the debt subject to coverage. It was 2.5 is the East Williamson County debt for the water treatment plant. It's gone up. And the number increase here is what we talked about in January about me going after the Texas Water Development Board, an application to borrow $50 million for the money was spent to the city of Houston. So that money will be in July. Well, I'll bring back to the board in July the actual financing and approval for the sale of bonds. I'll talk a little bit more about the debt subject coverage a little later on in the numbering. Next is the debt not subject to coverage. This is the Army Corps of Engineers loans we have for the storage of water in the 8 core lakes. Next is operating projects. These are projects that do not build out to the major infrastructure on capital projects. Their assessments, their studies. We saw a little bit of that with in the previous that Blake talked about. That gives you a total of $67 million worth of expenses. Next are other incomes. The first one is the non-system revenue, system rate revenues. These are like their two tiers, and I think I've talked to you before about two tiers where the customer pays one price for the water used and then half that of water is not used. You have utilities in that. Next is other incomes, and that is like your Sugarland. We have contracted revenues for that. East Williamson County, we sell treated water to other customers there. A big change between the two numbers is the interest we make off of our investments. If you think back over a year ago, the Fed rate was less than 0.25, and now it's over 4, almost 5%. So that's the big increase between that number, giving you a total of $25 million for income. Now let's talk about debt subject to coverage. The 1.3 is a ratio that's in our board procedures, approved by the board. You simply, and that's what we have to maintain as a surplus. So you mainly take the 0.3 times the 4,468,000, that gives you 1,341,000. So you take the 67 minus the 25, add back the 1.3, and you need $43 million from our system rate holders. You divide that by the 478,000 acre feet, and you get $90 acre feet that it calculates to. I have in my buckets of reserves that the board approved rate stabilization reserve. I'm at 0.7 million back into it to bring it back up to 93.5. We've told our customers, we've told the board, we need a rate around $93. Later in the 5-year forecast, I'll talk to you about all these capital projects we have coming up that we're going to need those rates increasing at that rate to keep from having a hockey stick in the 5 years of double digits. The 1.7 is well spent on capital projects as well. So let's take a look at some of the numbers. The first is 719,000 acre feet that we have under contract. We already talked about the 478,000 that the system rate holders have. The 97 is utilities, that's NRG mainly. The two tiers made up of Dow Chemical and basically Dow Chemical and Bell County. And those are very old contracts that came out of a rate case back in 1991. This is basically the proposed revenues. We already talked about the 45 million. You can see the East Williamson County is about 7.1, Sugarland 4.9, and then you can see that the interest of $3 million, that big number. Last year was about 200,000. This just basically takes a look at the rates. One rate that you will be approving in July as well is the ag rate, and it's 70% of the 93.5. As we mentioned, the two-tier, you approve that in January. We wait for the CPI index to come out in November, recalculated. The other rates are calculated based on a contractual number. Some do have some CPI indexes in there too. So these rates here are not set yet. So what the expense assumptions we have, where employee cost index is increased is a 4.7. We're going to use a merit pool of 0.3. We're adding 10 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees. Now then, the O&M expense for federal reservoirs, it built into these numbers that we have, remember the 55 million is 5.2 million. You add in the 1.4 million that we have on debt service, that gives you approximately $15 to $16 of the $93 that goes to basically to pay for the loans as well as our portions of maintaining the 8 core lakes. This looks at our expenses. We've already talked a little bit about expenses. One of the numbers we didn't talk about before, and I'm sorry I missed that, in the revenues was the cost reimbursables. And in the numbers before, we had 20.8. We have 17 here. Cost reimbursables are customers that, like your Hutto, your basically Temple Belton. These are our waste treatment plants. We also have Williamson County raw water line. Every dollar of cost that we have, we bill that back to the customer. If you go back to the slide, you'll see it was 20.8. This is 17. The difference is 3.8 for capital projects, which I'll show you here in a few minutes, that will net it out to zero. See the operating projects? You can see none of these do build out to the major infrastructures. This just gives you an idea of the types of projects we have, capital projects in the different categories. Here are the main projects we have. And you can see Bell House, one of the big ones, expansion of the Williamson County water treatment plant. Allen's Creek's another big one. Tanner Gates, we're replacing those Tanner Gates there. Go back up here.
So the purpose of, sorry, David, the purpose of 2 or 3 of these slides with all these projects is just to give you an example of the spend. Just as a reminder, when you get your board books, there'll be a detailed project summary of each one of these projects.
Good. I did mention Williamson County Regional Raw Water Line. The 813 and the 3 million all are reimbursed by our customers. So we're only spending 39 million as opposed out of the system rate holders numbers. This is an eye chart, but what I wanted to really show you is we are going to be spending close to $401 million in the next 5 years. A lot of projects going on, a lot of borrowing we're going to have to be doing. This is just simply put in just to show that the cost reimbursables do zero out. We do stay with a healthy amount. The debt funding, we talked a little bit about. 46 million, we are borrowing 50 million from Texas Water Development Board. We could only use 46 of it. A little over $3 million of it is, quite a bit over $3 million, is used as reserves. That's required by the bonds covenants. And then you have your debt issuance. So we end up with a healthy amount for ending reserves. And I'll show in the 5-year how that helps in 25. So let's talk about that. You can see right here, the 46, we would be going out to the open market to be borrowing money in 25. Remember that 50 million that we're borrowing is a savings of close to 15 million over a 30-year period. So it's well worth to get the reimbursement from Texas Water Development Board and use that to help fund our projects going forward. Here, I really want to talk a little bit about why I'm doing the rate increases as they are. Remember we talked about that 1.3 is our debt coverage to coverage, debt service coverage. You can see it's high numbers here. They continue to be high. But what's happening is even though these rates are 6.5 to 6 or 7%, when we get out to 28, because of the number of projects we're balancing out at 1.3. So why I'm trying to do is make sure that we have an even keel of rates that our customers can be able to forecast and build it into their rate structures too. We also back up. This just kind of takes a look at the even keel. Since I've been here, my focus has been really is making sure that I can tell my customers, our customers, that something that they can plan for and build it into their budgets. So, as David mentioned before too, we still have meetings with our cost reimbursable customers in June. We still have some work to do to make sure all the numbers are correct. David mentioned about the customer meetings coming up, and then in July, I'll bring the final numbers to you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Director Boren.
I don't recall which slide it was, but it was your slide where you showed you employment costs being at, was it 4.01 or 4 point something? and you don't have to go back to it.
Okay.
But you said you had a calculated CPI in November.
Yes.
What's your number?
The CPI index?
Yeah, what are you going to guess it right now?
What is it at now? Okay, the CPI.
I'm just taking a poke at you here,
Okay.
so.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
but I mean, I want to let you know that the.
7?
I don't know. It's
Si-
really high.
It's going to be high.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the calculation itself does water down the CPI index for the two-tier.
So you're anticipating, I mean, you're building your budget anticipating.
Absolutely, sir. Now,
Yeah.
what I can't do, though, is it's built into our revenue. We make the best estimate we can.
Yeah,
on the
I got you.
CPI we have. But again, I don't know what the CPI will be in November.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's
Well, if you
lower.
did, you wouldn't live in Texas. You'd be in some, mansion.
My crystal ball is not that
Yeah.
good.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Director Taylor has a question.
David, the 9350 rate, how does that compare to water rates in Texas across the board?
Well, if you go back and look at the rate that we used in calculating for LCRA, it's well over 150. So our rates are still very low.
That's what I thought.
I have conversations with our customers, and they have the lowest rates for it all.
Thank you.
Director Fernandez.
Looking at the 5-year financial forecast, we see the system rate units increasing up in 28 to 492,000. Where is that additional storage coming from? Is that Allen's Creek or what?
It's not only that, but I mean, just in the $400 million we'll be borrowing that money basically on the open market. Some will be borrowed from Texas Water Development Board, but it's basically the open market during that period.
Well, but it's contract, it's hopefully it's contract conversions from those two-tier contracts to system rate contracts.
Okay.
We've had all of those contracts that have been converted in the last few years.
Okay.
Once we get closer to 2038, 2041, some of those larger contracts come for renewal. Allen's Creek in here at all?
In the system rate calculation, yes.
Okay.
We do basically a 50-year plan, and in which we look at the rates out that way. So I am looking not just in the 5 years, but I'm looking way out to make sure that our increases are not going to be astronomical for that.
And that reminds me, it's two-tier, but it's also a lot of the utility contracts that are older contracts that were put into place when the reservoirs were built. Like Limestone, Lake Granbury were funded with utility funds, and that negotiation had these two-tier rates for those ratepayers also.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Director Burgess.
So I understand how you're calculating the systems rate. I think that's methodical and, good way to message to our customers year over year. Where I get confused every year is on the capital projects, especially 5-year. So, I don't understand where we sit in current projects, meaning I don't know if we are ahead of schedule, behind schedule, ahead of budget, under budget, where we sit in relation if we're setting rates based off of that's helping part of our calculation. I think we need a little bit more visibility on what that, just our current capital structure looks like.
I think that's a good.
We're working on that. We'll have that to you before the next budget discussion.
We're
Thank you.
definitely, Blake's team's done a great job in helping me understand that spend, and that is a great question. I mean, that's been something that we've been working hard to improve on. Good question. Good questions, folks.
All right. Okay, David, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on surplus personal property by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
Maybe I need to call this the Director Hubert's agenda. I just have one item here in the surplus, and as you know, state statutes requires that anytime we get rid of property that we need to bring it to the board, whether it's defective, whether we can't repair it, or we just simply don't use. In this case, we're actually replacing a piece of property in the environmental lab that costs about $70, and we're getting a $25,000 trade-in credit for it. So I want to go ahead and surplus it because just.
Clarify what you just said, Dave.
Oh, sure. What? Yes, sir?
You said it cost $70.
Well, 70,000.
Okay.
Sorry.
For the record.
Oh, sorry, Rick. But yeah, it's cost, I'm sorry. I was going to ask you the question, but since you're Tiffany today, but $70,000, and we're getting a $25,000 credit for it. And so that would be a very good deal for us to do. That's the only item I had, simply that I just want to make sure we can get that transaction completed.
Please.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to dispose of the following surplus personal property under the terms and conditions that are in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors authorizes the General Manager, CEO, in certain instances to continue to use and/or maintain previously authorized surplus property in a manner that is in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority until appropriate replacement property is received and placed in service. Lot 1, Thermo Scientific Dynex Integrion HPIC System Ion Chromatograph with AS-AP Auto Sampler, Conductivity Detector, Variable Wavelength Detector, AXP Auxiliary Pump, Android tablet with mobile control option, and micro peak tubing included.
I so move.
Oh, my. Well, we heard the reading of the resolution. Director Huber has motion to agree that, and the second was made by Director Henderson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Boren.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Eady.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Jimenez.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Lattimore.
Yes.
Director Lloyd.
Yes.
Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Embro.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Smith.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on enterprise ERP system by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
So we've been on a current system, which is since 2002. And when I joined it, it was Lawson. And then N4 came in and purchased the software. We use the general ledger, accounts payable, purchasing, and fixed assets in the N4 system. The contract's getting ready to expire next year in February. N4 moved us to their new platform from Lawson, and we've seen some major problems with the functionality, as well as we had to have a lot of customer reports that we have issues with. The decision was made by my staff and IT that we need to go out for proposal and see what softwares are out there that could help us. So we did an RFP in January. We did the RMC to kick off the project. We did a non-mandatory pre-bid. We had 7 vendors that called in by phone, and then we had 5 proposals from the RFP. The selection committee basically scored 2 of the vendors, which was BrightPoint and Tyler with the highest qualification, pricing, experience, et cetera. We then had both of these companies come in for 2-day demos, and my selection committee decided on Tyler. Tyler is one of the largest established provider of integrated software. Their focus is 100% on public sectors, which is us. They have 2,000 installations, an impressive 98% retention, headquartered here in Plano, Texas, 6,600 employees, $1.6 billion in revenues, and they reinvest 120 million back into their software. So the benefits we saw was much easier to navigate, robust reporting, most of it right out of the software. There's no customization needed, basically out of the box. We saw, too, a fully integrated budget tool, which I know I've been looking for, and my budget manager, who's sitting here as well, has been looking for, too, that's integrated with the software, which will simplify the Excel spreadsheets that we use in creating our budget. Big thing is it's half the price, 1.8 million savings over the 10-year period from their current Infor software. Multiple sources of training. Training is so critical in softwares. It's at your fingertips when you're navigating through the software. We just found it so much easier to work with. So implementation. Tyler has professional services and support teams, 100% US based. Direct Tyler employees. Why I say direct Tyler? We've done implementations here before. They use subcontractors. This time they use their employees. Project management team is dedicated throughout the implementation. Their headquarters for the implementation teams here in Austin. Once we contract with Tyler, it'll take 10 to 12 months to get it implemented. Doing that means we're going to overlap the February 2024 contract termination with Infor. So I need to ask for one more year of service from Infor to make sure we have data integrity and be able to continue our financial closing and reporting and audits for that. Any questions?
I do. So Tyler is the system integrator. No, and do we know what software it is?
No, that is Tyler software.
Oh, it's called Tyler.
Their software, whereas it's same with Infor, they had their own software. Tyler has their own software. So we're not using Microsoft 365 or anything else like that. Basically, it's their homegrown software, and it's designed specifically for public sectors, which reports fit right into our needs. It's something we needed to do.
So, David, we'll be asking for 1 year extension for our current.
Correct.
And then this would work together. So that cost then for
another year would be $260,000 to extend it out one more year. And then during that period, we'll be able to move off the Infor platform into the Tyler software.
But we'll be paying for both for at least 1 year at the same time.
We'll be paying for both. Yes, ma'am. But I didn't see any other way to get out of, doing that as well.
What's the price for the Tyler?
It's basically 1.8.
Oh, okay. Yes, okay.
It's just, that's implementation and everything. It's just a good deal.
See any problem with the current vendor supplying the information needed for Tyler to do what they need to do to make it fit what you need?
Tyler's familiar with Infor and conversions with the software on that. Most of the stuff we can do is just upload the data. I mean, purchase order. Remember, all we're doing is fixed assets.
Sure.
Yeah. Accounts payable, purchasing, purchase orders. All these things can basically be uploaded into the software and the data conversion. General ledger, stuff like that. So the 10 months is basically taking our time to train us on the new software and then basically getting comfortable with how we want to configure the software. 10 months is a good short time.
To answer Director Ambrose's question, the 10-year cost for Tyler Technologies is estimated at $1.6 million compared to $3.4 million for the next 10 years for the current vendor. And that's how you come up with the $1.8 million in savings.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate a contract with Tyler Technologies for an enterprise resource planning, ERP, software having a term of 5 years with one 5-year extension and a not-to-exceed cost of $1,600,000. And be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the extension of the existing licensing and support agreement with Infor for the final extension period from February 24, 2024 to February 23, 2025 for a not-to-exceed cost of $260,000 to facilitate the preservation of and access to our historical financial data through the implementation of the new ERP.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. There's been a motion made by Director Henderson and a second made by Director Wilson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 9, the Board of Directors will conduct a closed meeting and executive session on the following matters. A, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property in McLennan County pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.072 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, codified by Chapter 551, the Texas Government Code. If you are not specifically involved in the presentation of this executive session item, please excuse yourself from the boardroom at this time. Executive session, agenda item, time will allow to clear the room, boardroom, and call the next presenters. We ask that the public please wait in the break room in order to keep the hallways clear until the executive session is finished. All right. The Board of Directors hereby reconvenes into open session at 11:41 a.m. And at this time, we will take a break for lunch. Be back shortly.
Items to go.
Directors is back in open session, 12:30 p.m. We're on agenda item number 10, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2024 strategic planning by John King, Special Projects and Strategic Initiatives Manager. John.
Good afternoon again. Today's discussion will be centered around our planning efforts for the FY 2024 strategic plan. I'd like to accomplish this in two parts. The first part is to talk about our internal planning efforts, and the second part is to open it up and allow you the opportunity to provide feedback on some of the more foundational components of our plan. So just as a reminder of our framework, our strategy pyramid, if you will, at the top, it starts with our mission statement. That's the why we exist statement. Underneath that, we have layered our vision, and that's where we want to go in the future. Followed up by our guiding principles. Those are what makes us who we are, the things that we believe. The strategic goals are what we want to accomplish as an organization. And then underneath that, the objectives or strategies are the how. That's the actual work that gets done to advance those strategic goals. At the very bottom there, that's our performance measure. That's how we track performance and know once we've reached where we want to be. So this past April, I guess a few weeks ago, we held an internal management team workshop to go over our strategic plan outlook for FY24. We really tried to keep the focus on a 5-year look ahead. Look at what are the things in the plan that we have now that we want to keep? What do we want to modify? What do we want to close out? Is there anything new? In order to do that, we kind of do an environmental scan. We discuss some of the mission critical questions. To help us get there, we use prompts like, what do we want to achieve? What do we want to eliminate? What are the things in our organization we want to preserve? And what do we want to avoid in the coming landscape? We take all of that information, plug it back into a plan, and try to make sure that we have a plan that's aligned, that the goals aligned with what our mission and vision are. We also review the plan components to confirm that everything in there supports our overall strategy. So some of the outcomes of that and some of the refinements that you'll see in your package, you had a copy of the draft FY24 plan. The first thing you'll notice is we continue to make updates to take out some of the more operational things, take out the day-to-day tasks that really don't belong in strategy. We've also tried to streamline the format of the goals to pursue more of an action with each one. That way, when we're relaying our message to people, it's succinct and gets across what we're really trying to achieve. The last thing you'll notice is that we're also proposing a 5-year term for the 2024 plan. And that is because most truly strategic initiatives take longer than 1 year to get done. And instead of coming back and trying to rework the plan every year, we can spend that time in providing reporting metrics and data, and also more internal processes to refine us to help us get to where the goals we want to go. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't, provide you feedback every year. We will still do a summary report at the end of the fiscal year describing the major accomplishments toward moving that forward. We would still do our quarterly checkpoints where we as a team sit down and look at the initiatives and kind of get a look and a feel of where things are. But it would just take away the thing where we have to come back every year and re-seek approval for it. So with that in mind, I wanted to kind of lay out how the different parts interplay with that 5-year approval. At the top, our mission and our guiding principles, they should be timeless. Those things shouldn't change. Our vision is a lofty look ahead in the future, 5+ years. And then strategic goals, like I just talked about, most of those things are 3+ years in time. They take longer to get going and actually finished. The bottom underneath the line there, you'll see those are the objectives and strategies. That's how the work gets done. That's your yearly metrics of how progress is moving and all the different projects that you're seeing in this meeting today, especially that go into fueling those strategic goals. So for the rest of the discussion, what I'd like to do is walk through above the line items with you and allow you to provide perspective, input, or any feedback that you might have as we go through it. We'll take that data into consideration as we do the finalization of the 2024 plan and come back to you in July with the plan for approval. Any questions up to this point about our internal process or any of that good stuff? Good. So the first foundational components are our mission and our vision, and these remain unchanged from the year before. Our mission, as it was stated earlier, we exist to develop, manage, and protect the resources of the Brazos River Basin. We feel like that's certainly still applicable, and all of the goals that we've tried to build underneath this all support that mission. Our vision is something new that we added last year, and we left it the same because it's still true. We still want to be that leader, making sure that we have quality, availability, and resiliency in water resources. I'll pause at the end of each of these, just if there's any comments, certainly we can talk it, but if not, I'll move on. Our guiding principles, and this goes back to some of what Randall was saying earlier, it's people that makes us unique from our competitors. It's certainly the foundation of what we do. We need to conduct our business with integrity and respect. That's just, it'll take us a lot farther. Ownership and accountability, that's one we added last year, and that has to just do with making sure that we're taking projects and taking them to the finish line, making sure we're being, accountable for whatever our departments are. Commitment to service and stewardship, that's a carryover, as well as innovation and continuous improvement. The innovation and continuous improvement, we live in such a dynamic world and a changing business environment that we have to be able to adjust, and we're implementing more and more processes to help us be resilient in that manner. So for the next 6 slides, they're going to look a lot alike. There are 6 strategic goals that we're proposing for FY 2024. I left kind of this little postage stamp in there of our mission statement because I wanted to have that up side by side so that we can make sure that these goals are aligned with what our mission statement is as we go through. So for 2024, goal number 1, we try to simplify it, cut it back some. It's simply develop water resources to support the needs of our basin. We'll do that through resource development, be it surface water, groundwater. We'll look at innovative strategies like aquifer storage and recovery. And we also have conveyance projects where we're looking at moving water within the basin. We feel like that all of these help support that goal, which again feeds up, to the core language of what our mission statement is. Goal number 2, again, very same format, and we want it to be manage water resources for the benefit of the basin. We'll accomplish that through system operations, through our reservoir operations at our 3 lakes that we own, and then our water and wastewater treatment operations. All of those have opportunities for us to demonstrate, how we actually move forward in goal number 2. And that'll be captured, we won't talk about this today, but on the back end of all of this, there's an action plan. That's where you get down into the objectives and strategies that are actually how the work gets done. Goal number 3, protect the water resources that are entrusted to us. This is important, and our environmental services group does a great job of the different monitoring and studies that they do to make sure that we're leaving a healthy ecosystem behind, as well as having the data to move projects forward to support all the permitting needs. We want to stay involved in policy engagement and work with strategic partnerships where it makes sense to further initiatives for us. Goal number 4, we retooled this one a little bit, and simply it's advance operational efficiency. We want to make sure that we're engaging and doing things efficiently, and that's internally as well as externally. That involves our planning processes, internal as well as external engagement. And when we talk about resource stewardship here, that's a little different than goal 3. This is about the resources that are entrusted to us financially, people's times, talents, abilities. We want to make sure that we're putting those to good use as well. And finally, risk management. That's one that seems to, pop up more and more in today's landscape. So we're looking at business continuity, emergency response, as well as looking at an overall strategic risk management framework. Goal number 5, this is ensuring a robust connection with our stakeholders. It's vitally important that we do that. We need to maintain transparency as we've done in the past. We want to make sure that we have stakeholder engagement on initiatives as they come through the basin. And then also staying abreast of legislative issues, as Matt's keenly in tuned on. And finally, 6, certainly not last, is we want to cultivate a culture of employee excellence. It all starts with the people. We want to make sure that our recruiting efforts and development are about what you said earlier, making sure that we're building the talent pipeline, keeping people engaged. We want to be culture focused. We want the BRA culture to be at the top of the list when it comes to organizations. And also we want to ensure that we're pushing safety. There's nothing we do that's so important that we can't do it safety. People deserve to go home at the end of the day. So we want to make sure that's a focus. There's a lot of new work that's gone into that and really helped reinforce that for us. So when you take all those and put them on one page, what you'll see are, these are our 6 strategic goals. I'll call them our strategic pillars for 2024. And you can see, as I talked about earlier, they all start with action. That's the message that we want to relay, that this plan is about action. The next slide, this is just a little placemat. It's a visual that we can use to communicate our plan internally and externally. But I wanted to park here for a minute and just see, is there any questions, comments, feedback, or anything that you would like us to consider as we continue to develop the plan?
An example of a strategic partnership, or do we have some now, or these are things that we're looking to cultivate?
Yeah, I think a key strategic partnership that we have is with Gulf Coast Water Authority.
Okay.
In developing future water, looking at ways to develop water in the southern part of the basin to free up water in the northern part of the basin. whether it's desal or how they manage their intakes and water rights and all those things. So I think it's key customer relationships like that that are strategic.
Okay.
So what's next for the FY 2024 plan is we'll bring it back in July for approval. Before that, we're going to put it on our website, allow the public time to digest it and provide comment if available, and we'll continue to work that and have it in your packet for July. So that's all I had today. If anything comes up after this and you think of something that you wish you would have said, feel free to shoot me an email and we'll add it to the list. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, John. Agenda item number 11, discussion and possible action on East Williamson County Trinity Well Blending Infrastructure Engineering Design Contract. Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is an action item. We're requesting approval of an engineering design contract with CDM Smith for some infrastructure that we need to begin blending our groundwater at our East Williamson County water plant with our treated surface water from Lake Granger. And some of you may recall a couple of years ago, we selected CDM Smith through a request for proposal process for all of our preliminary engineering and expansion planning at East Williamson County. And here we're preparing to move into some of the detailed design phase of that work. So just real quickly to orient you, this is an overview of the East Williamson County Regional Water System. You can see the raw water intake structure there up the top right part of the map. The raw water pipeline that delivers water from Lake Granger to the plant, that's the orange line that you see there. Then the water plant itself is in the blue box. And then at the lower left, you see the green line, that's the treated water pipeline that takes the water we treat at the plant and delivers it to our customers. So this is just a zoomed in view of the plant itself here. So we're just looking at that blue box here. You can see various plant components there, including the Trinity Aquifer well at the lower left. That's really what we're focusing on with this item today. Right now, we can produce about 13 million gallons per day of treated water at that plant. And we're at the point where we need to expand and be able to deliver greater capacities. This shows the treated water pipeline. So here we're looking downstream. You can see the plant in the blue box up toward the top right. So the green line here we're zooming in on. It takes the water to our customer take points along Highway 95 there in the little community called Circleville. We supply water to the city of Taylor, the Jonah Water Special Utility District, and the Lone Star Regional Water Authority there. And this pipeline is 3.7 miles long. It's a 27-inch line with a capacity of about 15 MGD. So right now our pipeline has about 2 MGD more capacity than what we have to treat at the plant. So we've been having a lot of growth occurring within our customer base. And again, CDM Smith has been doing preliminary engineering and expansion planning work for us for the last year and a half or so. And I want to recognize that we have Steve Link with CDM Smith. He's our lead project engineer on this project with us. And I also want to recognize two other folks. Mandy Cullar sitting next to Steve. She's a BRA employee. She's the project manager on this project and has been doing a good job of moving us forward and working with the CDM team. And then also, Mike Green doesn't know it, but I'm going to call him out over here. He's our project engineer. Stick your hand up, Mike. So Mike does a good job at working with all our engineering firms, when we're doing scope and fee negotiations and reviewing submittals and all that. So those folks that I just mentioned have been key to getting us where we are and are going to be key in getting us moving forward. So our objective is to expand the facilities to meet the growing water needs of our customers. And the preliminary engineering work that's been conducted up to this point has really identified 4 things that we need to do over the next 5 years. First is to re-rate our existing filters at the plant, which will increase our treatment capacity up to about 13.75 MGD. So that's not a lot, but it's a little. It's another 0.75, and that's something that we can do through. It's a piloting testing process that we go through at the plant to generate data to submit to TCEQ, and ultimately they would approve that re-rating to give us the ability to supply a little bit more water. So that's kind of low-hanging fruit. Next, we're going to need to construct a new treated water pipeline so that we ultimately have the capacity to convey our treated water from the plant to our customers. Like I said, right now we have 2 MGD more capacity in that line than we have at the plant, but we're fixing to expand that plant pretty aggressively over the next 5 years. And then the subject of this item is constructing infrastructure necessary to begin blending our Trinity Aquifer groundwater. which will increase our treatment capacity up to 18 MGD. So our Trinity well can produce about 4 million gallons per day. So you got the 13 where we're at now, 0.75 from the re-rating, add the Trinity, that gets us up to about 18 MGD. And then lastly, we're going to need to expand the surface water plant itself by 10 MGD to get us up to about 28 million gallons a day of treatment capacity. So this is just kind of a graphical representation of the approach and the phasing that we're looking at. So really, if you look at the boxes on the far right, the filter re-rating is underway this year in 2023. We're hoping to get this Trinity groundwater infrastructure constructed next year and be able to begin blending that groundwater by the end of 2024. Then construction of the new treated water pipeline by the end of 2026. And then that 10 MGD surface water treatment plant expansion by 2028. And then long-term, expansion further sometime probably between 2030 and 2040. That will just kind of be determined by how growth ultimately plays out. For the last 3 or 4 years, we've been trying to catch up. The growth in that part of the county has started doing this, and we've been catching up to it. And I don't know if it's going to continue that way forever, but we get through these first 5 years here, and we'll see where we are for what needs to be done, beyond 2030. So just a little bit of information about our Trinity well. It has I mentioned earlier, a capacity to produce about 4 million gallons per day. That's actually a picture of some of the infrastructure there at the well. The well has the water in the aquifer there has a high TDS content, that's total dissolved solids. And that content is too high for that water to be used for drinking water without advanced treatment or without blending it with another source of water. And so what we're talking about is blending this groundwater with our treated surface water from the plant, particularly during the summertime when we're having the peak demand days in July and August, when our plant is running full bore, we need more water. We'll blend a little bit of this groundwater so that the ratio of groundwater to surface water is pretty small. So we're looking at no more than 30% groundwater is kind of what the preliminary engineering has determined that we can do and still meet all the primary and secondary treatment standards that TCEQ has. In order to do that, like I said, the well exists today. It's been in place since about 2020, I think. But we're going to need to add a cooling tower. We're going to need to add some piping to connect the well to where we're going to blend it in our clear well with the surface water. We're going to need to do some additional water quality testing work to basically dial in the treatment that we're going to need and the disinfection, and then adding a disinfection system. So those things that I just mentioned are things that we need to build, that right now we need to get engineering design done so that we can build those components that I just mentioned. So we've got a contract prepared with CDM Smith, and this slide lists some of the major tasks in that design contract. It'll look familiar to those of you that are engineers, with the detailed design work first. Then we'll have bid phase services once the design is complete and we go out for bids. And then we'll have engineering services during construction where they'll be reviewing submittals and looking over the contractor's shoulder, so to speak. Some more services here. I'm not going to read through all of those, but you can kind of scan the list there. But this is basically the high-level tasks that will be in that contract. So in terms of cost and schedule, this summarizes the engineering fee and the duration of each of those major tasks. The total not to exceed fee of the contract would be $3,078,208. And the total project cost here we're looking at for this infrastructure and getting everything hooked up to where we can begin blending the water, we're looking at somewhere around $13 million is the estimate that we have right now. And so my next slide is a resolution. So what we're asking is for you to provide authorization to the general manager to negotiate and execute the engineering contract for this design work. And you'll see on the resolution that I've added a 10% contingency to the total not to exceed number that you see here in the event that we run into some unforeseen circumstances that a reasonably prudent engineer wouldn't have envisioned. So that's my presentation. I've got the resolution, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions if there are.
Brad, Director Henderson has a question.
I do. So you were talking earlier about the feasibility study that we did. Remind me how long of a contract we thought that would be versus what it was.
I can't remember what we thought. I think we entered the contract 1.5 or 2 years ago. CDM has been working on it since then. And one of the things that you might remember whenever we authorized that initial contract, we were looking at doing a 3 to 5 million gallon per day expansion up front. And one of the things that we found since we've gotten into this is that wasn't near enough. So we've had to go back. We've been back to the customers about 3 different times with numbers changing. You know, about the time we think we've got our demands lined out, the phone rings and we need to go back and meet with the customers again. And so we've been a little bit in a do loop trying to get things dialed in, and we went from 3 to 5 MGD, and now we're looking at going from 13 to 28. So we're up to 15 in 5 years. And so it's taken a little bit longer than what we had hoped, but it's, you know, because of the growth and things are changing just so fast.
I agree. Things are changing really, really fast in that area. And we can't do this fast enough. And we can only control what we can control, which is our side of the pipe. Do you think that the 3 that we're serving, are they looking long-term at their infrastructure as well and getting ready to accept more flow from our upgraded pipe?
They are. I can't tell you specifically what each one of them is doing, but we meet with those customers quarterly and review our plans, our expansion planning, the stuff that we're talking to you about today. And I know that all 3 of them, you know, have engineers and contractors going as fast as they can pedal to right now, trying to get their stuff, you know, basically caught up to where all this stuff seamlessly comes together at some point.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So one of the things that I noticed was not in your earlier slide was permitting of the upgraded line. Who's responsible for that? Would that be internal of the BRA, or is that part of this contract?
You're talking about the new treated water line?
Yeah.
That'll be the next agenda item. So
Okay.
This one is just.
Oh, I gave you my question early.
Yeah. So
Okay.
This one is just for the Trinity well infrastructure.
Okay, all right.
Brad, Director Huber has a question, comment.
Brad, is any of this cost reimbursable? Nope.
Not cost reimbursable, but we have contracts in place with all those 3 customers that basically pay for the operation.
Eventually it'll be paid for then.
Yes.
Director Lattimore?
I think you just answered my question. This is all guaranteed to be paid for. I'm a little hazy.
So some of this will be paid for. Yes, we have contracts to cover the majority of these costs. Some of these costs will be allocated to our system based on our future plans to use East Williamson County as a regional water system.
Okay.
Any other questions for Brad? Yes, Director Embro.
Hey, Brad, I was looking at the other services section you have there, and you have resident project representative services. Is that inspection? What is that exactly?
That would be, once we get a contractor out there, we'll have an engineer with CDM's group that's out there making sure that the contractor is building what we've designed. So he's basically there to look over the contractor's shoulder to make sure that we're, getting what we spec'd.
Okay, so then when you go back to the other slide, forward.
The money slide.
Here?
You're right, that's not part of the construction, the engineering services doing construction. Those are 2 different things, right?
Well, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it's combined here. Both of those things are in that number. Is that?
Yes, sir. The additional services are captured in other services supporting.
Come to the mic, please, if you don't mind, Steve. We have people watching us on YouTube.
I need to introduce my name.
Please do.
Steve Link. Do I need to spell it?
No, you don't.
Okay. CDM Smith. Mr. Tony, if I could, I'll answer your question. The RPR services, Resident Project Representative Services, are full-time inspection, resident inspection services during construction throughout the entire period. And those are captured in that second line item there for other services supporting design, but there are actually other services that include the RPR during construction. So I can see why that might be a little confusing.
Understood. I just wanted to clarify that because typically it would have been under that other section.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Person has a follow-up question.
On the duration here, what kind of assurances do we have that we can actually make that?
It's an aggressive schedule, and in terms of assurances, I don't know exactly how to answer that question, but this is what we're shooting for, and we're going to do our best to meet it.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Embro.
Clear, that's just the design aspect of it. That's not construction.
Correct.
Right. So we're saying it's going to be 20 months from the time you start the design to the time it actually starts construction.
That's not what
No.
it shows. It shows that in 12 months, we start construction.
And you'll be done, the whole project from design to construction will be completed in 20 months.
By the end of next year.
Okay.
That's what we're hoping.
Build it in 10 months.
That is aggressive.
All right, read the resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate and execute a professional services contract with CDM Smith Incorporated for all activities associated with the permitting, engineering, design services, and construction oversight services for the construction of the Trinity Well Blending Infrastructure Engineering Design Contract to increase the finished water capacity for the East Williamson County Regional Water System in an amount not to exceed $3,386,029.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Crone, a second by Director Wilson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Hernandez,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 12, discussion and possible action on East Williamson County expansion pipeline by Brad Burnett, Central Lower Basin Regional Manager. Brad.
Okay, very similar agenda item here. We're requesting approval for another engineering design contract with CDM Smith for the treated water pipeline that we looked at earlier. So once we get this groundwater well built, we'll be up to 18 MGD, and our line only can transport 15. And so that's what we're looking at here is authorization for that. So just again, real quick, this is the same map we looked at a while ago that shows the green treated water line, 3.7 miles long, it's 27 inches in diameter, and takes water to Circleville where our customers take delivery there. Again, this is exact same slide we showed a while ago, but here we're highlighting the 48-inch pipeline. We just talked about the groundwater in the last one, so we're talking about that 48-inch pipeline. And again, we're going to need that pipeline to fully integrate the groundwater once we get the well infrastructure put in place. Project approach, same thing we looked at earlier here. We're looking at the star there. We're looking at this 48-inch pipeline to get it completed by the end of 2026. And just a little bit more information and detail about that pipeline. It was built in 1990, and we think it's still in good shape. We haven't had any real problems with it. It's one of the things that CDM has been evaluating as a part of the preliminary engineering work. So, but it's a potential single point of failure right now because we have no other way to get water from the plant to those customers. So if anything happens to that pipeline, we're out of business until we can get it repaired. So another benefit of this project, in addition to having some additional capacity, is we're going to have some redundancy so that we'll have two lines there in the future so that if something happened to one or the other, we can still get some water to the customers. So CDM's recommendation for the new line is a 48-inch line that would have the capability to supply up to 35 million gallons per day. And that essentially will get us up to what we believe is kind of the build out of this East Williamson County system. So you're looking at about 50 MGD long-term, which is consistent with what our intake structure at the lake is sized for. The construction is on the critical path for us to fully use that groundwater well. Single point of failure, it's going to eliminate that. And our plan for actually how this line is going to be utilized, it's going to supply the Lone Star Regional Water Authority and the Jonah Special Water Utility District. And the existing 27-inch line will continue to supply the city of Taylor. And the way that it's set up or designed that way has to do with the pressure planes. We can use low pressure pumps for Jonah and Lone Star because they have ground storage tanks where we pump, whereas the city of Taylor, we pump to elevated storage. So there's different requirements for getting the water pumped to the different customers. And this is the one that made the most sense to set it up like this, where that 27 will continue to supply Taylor. Pretty much same type of tasks that we looked at a while ago. Got detailed engineering design, data acquisition, bid phase services, engineering services during construction. And here, the task here, the list here is a little longer than that other services. One of the things that you'll see in this list that I'll point out is that we've got easement acquisition services within this list. So CDM will be responsible for representing BRA to help secure the easements that we're going to need to get the pipeline built. Again, it's 3.7 miles, and I think there's maybe 20-ish property owners, and we're looking at maybe 30 to 35 easements that we'll need to get it done. So CDM, that's included in the engineering fee here for them to take the lead on that. Again, similar slide to the last one, you can see the not to exceed fee for this contract would be $2,776,952. The total cost that we estimate for this new pipeline with engineering easements and everything right now is $32 million. And so, again, I think this is my last slide other than the resolution, but we would recommend that y'all authorize David to execute and negotiate and execute this engineering contract. And I have a 10% contingency built into the number in the resolution that will follow.
Director Savage has a question.
So you said that it's a single point of contact right now with the 27-inch line, but then that's going to be dedicated to the city of Taylor. Won't they still be under the jeopardy of a single point of contact?
Well,
Are they going to jump over to the 48?
We're going to have interconnections.
Okay,
between the lines.
that's what I didn't hear you say that, so.
I didn't say it, but yes, sir.
Director Henderson?
I want to go back to that permitting question I had before.
Okay, and you're talking about like TCEQ or county permitting or?
Both, just who's responsible for getting the permit?
CDM will be as the engineer. They're going to be responsible for whatever permits we need. I don't know that we need a permit from TCEQ for the pipeline, so it's going to be your local county type permits and things like that, but they'll be responsible for basically, we're hiring them to execute this project for us. So everything that we need to get from where we are now to getting it built, they're our engineer, and that's in this scope of services.
Okay, thank you.
Director Taylor has a question.
If the smaller pipeline is dedicated to the city of Taylor, would they be responsible for the maintenance and continuation of it after you dedicate it?
No, it just means it's going to Taylor, delivering water to Taylor.
No, but the line's being dedicated to Taylor.
How about Brad answer the question?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
I can answer that.
I'm like this.
Basically, the way our contract works is we're responsible for getting water from the plant to a delivery point. And so that section of the 27-inch line that's going to remain dedicated to Taylor, we're making that decision that we think that's the best way for us to work it. But it's still on us to get the water from the plant to where they take possession.
It's still our line.
Yes, sir.
I think dedicated confused us.
Yeah, yes, we do.
Director Embra.
Illustrate the two pipelines, because I'm having a hard time understanding where the new one starts and the old one begins.
I forgot I wasn't.
What's the question, Director Embra?
I'm not sure that I understand how where's the new one, the new pipeline?
This is the existing line, and so the new one will generally follow, the same route. It's going to parallel it from the plant down here to where all the customers take delivery of the water.
And then the 27-inch line?
Yeah, the green one, that's the one that's there today is the green.
No, the one that's going to be dedicated now, where?
That's this line right here. So we're saying this 27-inch line, today we use this line to get water to all three customers.
Okay.
When we get the new 48-inch built, we're going to have a new, up here as part of the expansion, we're going to have a new pump station that's going to pump water from that 48-inch to Jonah and Lone Star into their tanks. But this green line that's there today, which now it supplies all three, we'll use it at that point just to supply the city of Taylor.
Okay.
But we'll have interconnections between them so that if we have a problem with one or the other.
Understood, sorry.
All right. Any other? All right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to negotiate and execute a professional services contract with CDM Smith Incorporated for all activities associated with the permitting, engineering, design, property, right-of-way acquisition, and construction oversight services for the construction of a treated water pipeline between the East Williamson County Regional Water Plant and the customer delivery points at Circleville, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $3,054,647.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? I'll make the motion to adopt. Second, Director Henderson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 13, discussion and possible action on a Hutto wastewater operation and maintenance contract extension by Brad Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Regional Manager.
So yeah, this is another action item. Here we're seeking approval to extend and update our O&M agreement with the city of Hutto for operation and maintenance of their two wastewater treatment plants. So just a real quick map there to orient those of you not that familiar with Williamson County. You can see there where Hutto is located. The two red dots are the two treatment plants, and then there's a couple of overhead pictures of them. So we've got the Hutto Central Plant, which was the original one, and then the South Plant has been added here 5 or 6 years ago. So the Central Plant, the one we started with, was a 0.99 MGD activated sludge plant. And I didn't know this until I started getting in wastewater operations. Why would you make a plant 0.99? But for those of you that are like me that may not have known that, there's a regulatory threshold that you go across if it's 1. So if anybody wonders why that's the case, I wondered that at one time too. So the South Plant is a 2 MGD activated sludge plant. Right now we have 3 BRA employees that are assigned to these facilities for operations and maintenance. You will be seeing in the 2024 budget an additional, one of those 10 additional positions is for another operator at these facilities. I think the city of Hutto is getting ready to expand the South Plant, and we're just going to need more help out there running the operations. We've been there since 1998, again, beginning with the Central Plant, and then the South Plant came online in 2017. And the last contract that we executed was in 2010, and there have been several extensions to that. And this most recent extension expires on June 30th of next month. So that's the need for this item now. We've got our standard cost reimbursable contract for wastewater treatment operations. So it's a BRA contract where we're getting reimbursed for everything that it costs us to operate. We've been working with the city on it for several months now. Both sides are wanting to update and extend the agreement. The City Council of Hutto actually approved it 2 weeks ago, so they're set to go with it. The new agreement provides for a 5-year base term with an optional 5-year extension that would have to be agreed to by both parties at the end of that initial 5-year term. So we're potentially looking at 10 years if everyone is still good after the first 5. Budget-wise, the next year's budget is about $2.2 million, and it includes a management fee for BRA of $105,000 roughly, and then an overhead allocation of about $96,000. And so that's pretty much what I have. Again, I've got a resolution for this one as well, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Brad? No questions. Read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute a new 5-year agreement with the City of Hutto for the continued operation and maintenance of both the Hutto Central and Hutto South wastewater treatment plants by the Brazos River Authority, with the term beginning on June 1st, 2023, and ending on May 31st, 2028, with one optional 5-year extension following expiration of the initial term.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Smith, a second by Director Henderson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crum,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item 14, discussion and possible action on Sandy Creek Water Treatment Plant operation and maintenance contract extension by Brad Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Regional Manager.
I think
Brad.
this is a new record for me. I don't think I've ever been up here for 4 items in a row.
I was going to say, I hope you didn't
This will
eat
be the
any
last one,
snacks.
and then y'all can
Fall
listen to
asleep.
someone else. This is another action item. We're seeking approval to extend our O&M agreement with the city of Leander for our operation and maintenance of the Sandy Creek Water Plant. So real similar to the last one, but different entity, this is water, the other one was wastewater. So this is a picture of the water treatment plant that we operate there. It's in Jonestown, Texas, right on the northeast side of Lake Travis. You can see the little red dot on the map. And so the water source for this plant actually doesn't come from the Brazos Basin. It comes from Lake Travis. The capacity of this plant is 12 million gallons per day. We've actually got 5 BRA employees that are assigned to this facility. The plant is currently owned by the city of Leander. And one of the things that's really unique about this plant that benefits BRA beyond just the management fee and the being part of our core of our mission of our operations is it's less than an hour away from our East Williamson County water plant. And so in today's world where it's so difficult to find licensed water plant operators, the fact that we have a crew of people right down the road from East Williamson County and vice versa gives us some ability to have resiliency and redundancy if we ever need to share resources in emergencies or unforeseen circumstances. And that's it's one of those maybe intangible type benefits, but it really is a big benefit, and it's come into play for us on a couple of occasions in the past. We've been operating this facility under a cost reimbursable contract again since 1998, so it dates back to about the same time as that Hutto contract. Back in those days, there was an interesting arrangement where LCRA at one time owned this plant. We operated it for LCRA, and the city was the recipient of the water. And so that agreement, for whatever reason, has never been updated, and it needs to be updated to reflect the current roles of the parties. There was an agreement that was done, I think, around 2012 after the city purchased the plant back from LCRA that basically said, BRA, you're going to keep operating for us, and at some point we'll negotiate a new agreement. And that's where we are today, trying to get that done. The timing for that has finally gotten to where it's worked out. So they gave us the ball. Our legal staff drafted a new agreement, completely replaced the old agreement. So it's the BRA standard treatment contract form that we use everywhere else. Again, it's a 5-year base term with an optional 5-year extension that would have to be agreed to by both the parties. Budget-wise there, you can see the 2024 budget is about $2.6 million, about $129,000 management fee, and then we allocate about $110,000 of overhead to this operation. So again, resolution on the next slide, but happy to try to answer any questions about this one.
Questions for Brad? No questions, Brad. Read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute a new 5-year agreement with the City of Leander for the continued operation and maintenance of the Sandy Creek Water Treatment Plant by the Brazos River Authority with a term beginning on June 1st, 2023 and ending on May 31st, 2028, with one optional 5-year extension following expiration of the initial term.
Reading of the resolution, is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Henderson, second by Director Wilson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Giese,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
This time we'll take a 10-minute break. It is, we'll be back at 1:30. Thank you. Go ahead and get started. Agenda item number 15, discussion and possible action on spillway pump and piping project by Mike McClendon, Upper Basin Regional Manager. Mike.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, members of the board. Good afternoon. This, as Randall spoke earlier about the RSMU group, this happens to be one of the projects in a very long time that they decided not to tackle. Not that there's some other projects that are more pressing. It also didn't really allow into their schedule. So we actually did go out for bid on this project, and so that's why we're bringing that forward today. This is probably one of the first projects in a long time that I've brought forward with any work up at Possum Kingdom from an outside contractor. This project does fall within our strategic plan, Section 2B. It states that the BRA is going to operate and maintain our water supplies and our infrastructure in a safe and responsible manner. So going into this project, the existing spillway pump, which you can see down here on the bottom, was taken out of service as a part of a prior project. And it was determined at that time that it should be replaced when the time came. And we've been working on that for a couple of years now. This pump, the pump is primarily utilized to provide pressurized water to the underside of the gate chambers. What you can see on the top here is a section of within the spillway or underneath the dam or within the dam portion of the pipeline that was replaced in 2016. This pump, whenever it's activated, will pump water up and then it'll go up. And then this photograph's kind of hard to see over here, but it goes, and this is the underside of the spillway gates. And so this water provides an augmentation of pressurized water into the spillway gates. And I'll kind of reflect that here in this photograph, yes. So whenever you're raising a gate at Possum Kingdom, the downstream sluice gate is closed, and then you open the inlet gate on the upstream side. The water comes in and fills up this cavity. And so the project that we're talking about is whenever the lake head pressure or when the lake elevation is below 995, you lose some of that head pressure that helps raise that gate. And so this pump will provide water inside the gate, and it'll help raise and provide additional head pressure to raise those gates. And this is especially important whenever we're trying to do maintenance and you start running into lower reservoir elevations below that 995. You don't have enough head pressure, so you need this additional head pressure to help raise the gates. So there's a couple of pipelines that are associated with this project, and what you can see here outlined in red is the Texas Parks and Wildlife. This is their fish hatchery. The yellow line right here represents, there's actually two pipelines. There's a warm and a cold water pipeline that we provide water to the fish hatchery. We have an interlocal agreement with them. So as a portion of this project, we've been coordinating with the Parks and Wildlife folks there, and since we began doing the assessment phase through the engineering phase and then now here through construction. So there'll be a small portion of the area, and I'll have it on the subsequent slide, where we tie into this existing pipeline. So this pipeline, the warm and cold water pipeline, will be taken out of service temporarily to provide water to the fish hatcheries. But this will improve that. We did, as part of the assessment, we looked at this pipeline, we did some potholing to see if that needed to be replaced, and we would have coordinated further with the Parks and Wildlife. But after looking at that pipeline, it looks to be in good shape, and so Parks and Wildlife doesn't have any need to upgrade that pipeline. And then if we go to the next slide, here you can see this is the red and blue are representative of the warm and the cold water pipeline. This is where it emanates from, and it goes down towards the fish hatchery. We'll tie in to their pipeline in about this area. And then there's another portion of this project you saw in the photograph before. In 2016, we replaced some of the pipe that was going out to some of these spillway gates. We've got to tie back into that pipeline, and then we've got to extend it through, I think it's gates 4 through 9, or to the end of the, yes, 4 through 9. So there's two components. We'll tie into this pipeline with Parks and Wildlife, and then we'll have to extend the pipeline out here, and that'll be able to provide pressurized water to all the gates. So right now, we only have that available at one of the gates, except the pump doesn't work either right now. A little bit of the background on the project. Jeff Salmon is our project manager. He's in here. He's been coordinating with KCI. They're our engineering firm. They went through, looked at the pipeline, did an assessment, and then they came back and have done the design work and designed all the necessary repairs and the updates. The project involves tapping into a couple of new pipelines, or tapping into the existing pipeline that goes to the fish hatchery and the existing pipeline that's on the spillway, and then extending that further out to the other gates. So we went through a bid process. We had 4 firms attend the pre-bid meeting. We had Marine Diving Solutions, which we've used before. We had a group called CCC Group, Urban Infra Construction, and then Alltech Engineering. When we went out for bid, the engineer's opinion of probable construction costs was $2.34 million. We did, as you can see here, we only received one bid, which was Marine Diving Solutions, and that came in at $2.5 million. It's a difference of roughly $179,000 or 7%. Jeff did call the, as I said, there was 4 firms that showed up at the pre-bid. Jeff called 2 of the firms, or was able to get a hold of 2 of the 3 that did not bid. And the reason why they didn't bid, they told us that was a scheduling conflict. It just didn't fit in with their schedule, and they didn't have the resources to pursue this at this time. So it was nothing that we did. It was just it didn't match with their schedules. We did have, we have worked, as I said earlier, we've worked with Marine Diving Solutions. Y'all probably heard me mention them on the low-flow facility at Lake Granbury. They're a very reputable firm. Randall spoke about RSMU. From what I've seen, all the firms from a construction standpoint, they're very similar to our RSMU group. They're very highly skilled. They're very responsive. They're one of the best construction firms that I've worked with. We also had a bid evaluation team that looked at this, and then we also had the engineer, KCI, and they also agreed separately, apart from just myself and some of the others, that this Marine Diving was qualified to perform the work and recommended that we pursue this bid with Marine Diving Solutions. So I do have a resolution for y'all's consideration. As I said earlier, Marine Diving Solutions bid was $2.5 million. We've added, as you can see here, 10%, about $250,000 for any unforeseen expenditures. We don't have a proposed schedule for Marine Diving Solutions at this point. We do think that it'll be completed in about 14 to 16 months to perform this work. And so I think probably by the end of next fiscal year, this project will be complete, and we'll have that back online.
Mike, we have a question here.
Yes, sir.
This might be a dumb question, but I'm just curious, over the last 70 years, how did y'all do this when the lake was low, which it is so much of the time without this?
Yeah, it was operational up until a point, so it hasn't been out of service for 70 years.
I see. It's not something new. It's something.
No, it's something that we took out of service in 2016, and we need to get it back into service.
I got you.
There's been some opportunities where we could have utilized it. I think we've had to put tuggers and try to manually pull up the gates using the crane. That's not very good. We've also looked at, there was a couple of times where we, those blue, like 16, 18-inch pipe, and we tried to utilize that as a temporary measure. And unfortunately, we actually had somebody from a safety perspective lifting these big, heavy pipes that hurt their back. They weren't lifting properly. And so this takes a lot of that out of the manual operations that we were trying. They just weren't very successful. And so
I think it's a good
finally
thing.
got to the point where this is necessary to pursue.
I think it's a good thing. I was just curious.
Mike, is KCI Technologies, is that a new bidder in town, or have we used?
That's the engineering firm.
Right.
Right. No, that was probably our first, Jeff. That's our first time to utilize them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Just surprised that $2.5 million is a lot of work, and that only went, why would they even send people to a pre-bid meeting if they had no intention or they couldn't meet? It's just peculiar to me. I want I know, and I think marine diving is probably the right solution from what you've told us before about them.
Right.
But I know that we're in some problems with that one gate company, and if somehow that had impacted our reputation or whatever.
No, let me, first of all, in the construction world, $2.5 million is a little bitty job, especially for a job that's going to have the duration of this time. Second of all, I want to tell you about a meeting that we had in this room 2.5 weeks ago where we had the executive leadership of most of the major river authorities in Texas. And in the open discussion toward the end of the meeting, this bid issue became a topic. And basically what the river authorities were talking about is the inability to get multiple bids. And there were pipeline projects that some of their municipal customers were bidding that they were getting 0 bids. So I think we're doing everything that we can to get the message out that we have projects, we have a lot of money in the bank, and we can pay you. But I think there's a lot of competition. The construction companies, the engineering firms are having some of the same workforce challenges that we're having. And I think there's just a shortage of resources to come do jobs that are specialized like this. So I could give you examples. It's been a long day. We can talk offline about some of those examples.
I'm not harping on that. I have the same trouble with just getting a plumber to come to my house. But I was just trying to me, $2.5 million does seem like but you're right, on a construction scale. I'm just trying to understand it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I add something to the conversation? I've had the opportunity to go out to some of these big conferences where you've got your dam contractors, marine diving, others are there, engineering firms. And, previously they would look for work, a year, 2 years out in advance. Now talking with some of them, they're looking 4 or 5 years out in advance. They're booked solid, resources are stretched thin, and it's just hard to cover everything out there. So sometimes that's just an obstacle. So,
Well, that's why we called them, was because we wanted to understand that too. So, yes, sir.
So what's the solution moving forward? The whole reason why we have this process is for competition, right? So that we can have a measure of evaluating the bids and whatnot. So it's kind of difficult when you just have one bidder in place. And I understand the circumstances, but to say that that's all that we could get, is there maybe a possible way of maybe changing the date or rebidding it or doing something to foster an environment where there's more bidders in place?
Yeah, and we've done that, and we've contemplated, do we hold meetings? Do we extend the timeline for people to respond, give them, 3 months to respond to an RFB as opposed to a month? So depending upon the project and the complexity of it, we may allow people a lot longer time. That gives them time to go out to the site, look at it, and then go back and properly prepare. So we're doing some of that. One of the things that kind of helps me whenever you only receive one bid, and that I rely upon a little bit, is that engineer's opinion of probable cost. And so we update that as the project moves forward. And so this came in at about 7% higher. And so that gave me some comfort that those numbers the bid was a pretty good bid. And in the absence of having another party or two bidding, that gives me confidence that number is pretty close to what it should be. But I agree with you. There's some measures. I don't know if you want to speak again, Blake, but there's some measures that we're taking, like I was saying, to try to, develop additional bids.
Director Henderson has a comment.
I'm sorry.
David, my comment's really more for you. I think this discussion is a really good one, and there's several of the directors that deal in this construction world. Could we possibly have maybe a meeting or a phone call where we discuss this, maybe outside of this meeting?
No, I think there's an opportunity for us to meet one-on-one, but I would recommend against a smaller version of the board having offline discussions about something that as a board needs to be talked publicly, would be my concern.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Mine's a little bit more of a comment. I was wondering if with the data that we're collecting and the shortage of the specialization, if there's a way to bring awareness to some of our universities of specializing in these areas.
Yeah, that's a really good comment. And part of the reason that discussion was had here with TWCA and the river authorities was trying to figure out what's the best way of getting that message out on the street. So yeah, good comment. And back to what Mike said a minute ago, if we would have received one bid and it would have been way out of whack, we reserve the right to start over. But because of the probable cost and the bid that we got and the quality of the company that we got, we thought it was in our best interest to bring this to you.
And just to that point previously, that's a chance you run is if you do reject bids and you go back out for bids is what do you get back? You may get no bids, you may get bids that are way off from your OPCC. So that's just something you have to juggle. There's a lot of considerations there.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Let's read the resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to execute a contract with Marine Diving Solutions LLC for construction of the Morris Shepherd Dam Spillway Pump and Piping Improvements Project in an amount of $2,770,900. And be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to approve change orders as deemed appropriate by the General Manager CEO, subject to the aforementioned not to exceed value. And be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority, in exchange for a salvage credit of $700, hereby authorizes the disposition and salvage of the following items which are no longer necessary to the business of the Brazos River Authority and will be removed from Morris Shepherd Dam as a part of the contract for the project. 20-foot plus or minus 16-inch steel pipe and 380 feet plus or minus 12-inch steel pipe.
Just clarification, salvage credit of?
$700.
Okay.
You're correct.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Savage, a second made by Director Cron. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChamps,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item 16, discussion and possible action on law enforcement services by Mike McClendon, Upper Basin Regional Manager. Mike.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, members of the board. If y'all recall, back in January, we provided the board information about working with the county to provide law enforcement services at Morris Shepherd Dam or Possum Kingdom. We'd gone over an outline of the interlocal agreement and had requested some feedback, comments, concerns from the board. And so this agenda item is to address some of those comments and concerns. Moving forward, before I get into some of the addressing some of the comments or the concerns, I wanted to circle back real quickly as to why we brought this forward back in January to begin. Possum Kingdom has a budget of 5 Lake Ranger positions, and there's currently 3 that are open. Because of that staffing condition with 3 being open, we had an opportunity to comprehensively assess, the open law enforcement positions and how we might want to proceed. We examined other river authorities. You can see SJRA, LCRA, the Corps of Engineers, I think Tarrant Regional Water District. They all have interlocal agreements with counties to provide law enforcement services. We also looked at the model that school resource officers, and then we also looked at contract officers, that being security guards, licensed peace officers. We started off looking at the contract officers. Ultimately, after going through an exhaustive and comprehensive review of that process, there were concerns about their abilities to perform. There was the ability to meet or the capacity to meet our needs. The contract cost structure was very difficult when we started talking to some of those firms. the proximity of where they were coming out of DFW Airport. So they're going to be shipping in people to Possum Kingdom for an hour and a half. So just an hour and a half of their time would be travel. One of the big ones was they had the inability to enforce BRA rules and regs. That was almost a deal killer right there. And then from a staffing consistency standpoint, we weren't going to be guaranteed that we were going to have, 1 to 3 of the same people. It was going to be just kind of a rotational. And that's not what we really wanted to have out at Possum Kingdom Lake. So that turned our attention to where we explored the county, that interlocal agreement option. We spoke with the county judge, the county sheriff, the county attorney, and several others. After those discussions, we developed that draft interlocal that we brought to y'all last time that I briefed y'all on. The agreement requires, as you can see here, bulleted here, requires the county to patrol and protect BRA infrastructure, and that infrastructure being our dam, our parks, our trails, our restricted areas, and then other properties that the BRA owns above and beyond that. Staff's view, as it was before, is that this agreement is comparable. It provides the BRA a comparable, if not enhanced level of service out at the lake and protection of our infrastructure. And so that's key. Should something occur at the lake, the county can bring in the necessary resources and the manpower to address the issue. In speaking with the county, they've actually already started this. They've been coordinating with the Texas Parks and Wildlife and with the game wardens, and they're in the process of certifying all of their officers. So they have about 15 officers, I believe. They're certifying all of those officers as Marine Safety Enforcement Officers, MSEO. Our officers are all pretty much, if they're not, they all obtain that MSEO within the first year or two of being employed at the BRA. But where this will benefit the BRA is like if the county has somebody out that's on sick, PTO, on leave or something, they'll have all of their officers that can backfill in that position, and so they'll be able to participate out at the lake. With regard to some of the specific questions, whenever I was going through, I went back and reviewed the January board meeting, listened to some of the comments as well as some of the notes that I took. And so I'm going to address each one of these in subsequent slides. These are some of the comments and concerns or questions that the board had. And I'll start off with the budget. The information on the left illustrates the total compensation, that's salary and benefits, if we were fully staffed. So that's about $461,000. Two of the officers that are up there now, we've kind of spoken to here initially, and it's my understanding that more than likely they would want to stay with the BRA and not transition over to the county. So we would retain their salaries. That'd be about $187,000. You subtract that, you get a potential saving of about $274,000, and then a net loss of 3 positions. I will say, Randall had mentioned about some of the work that we're doing up at Possum Kingdom. So in the July board presentation, we'll actually be coming back asking for like 4 positions for the RSMU group to be able to carry out some of those projects that they've got going on to replace some of the concrete up on the dam. But as I said here, there's, at least here initially, there'll be a net loss of 3 positions. And then if you do recall the agreement, we would be paying the county about $185,000 per year to provide some of the services that we're requesting. The county, as you know, has to provide law enforcement services within the county. However, we're actually asking them to be pretty specific on that slide that I mentioned, that I showed earlier. Just go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullet points where we're asking the county to really patrol and provide the protection of our infrastructure. And so they're going to be going above and beyond what the county would normally provide. And so that's why we're paying some of that money. If you look at the spreadsheet on the right, it shows the departmental cost. If you look, FY19 and FY20 are really more reflective of what the total costs are for this department. The reason why you'll see it's lower in 21 and 22, that's when we started having the positions, the 3 positions that I mentioned, we weren't having to pay those salaries. And also you can see these are some of the items that we provide, some of the items that we provide within the operating budget for the Lake Rangers. And you can see, let's see, the capital outlay does get captured in these operations budgets that are done annually, but many of the expenditures are not reflective in these budgets right now because we've already procured them. Like, so you're not seeing like some of the new vehicles, if we have to buy new vehicles, new boats, trailers, or some of the housing costs associated with that. It's not really reflective in here, but these are some of the budget information that I think y'all had asked for that I wanted to provide and try to clarify. Some of the other comments, there was a question regarding response time, and I answered it at the time, but going back and just trying to look, it's really going to be equal to the BRA. It really depends upon where the issue that arises emanates from. It may take us up to 30 minutes, even the BRA right now, 30 minutes to an hour to respond. The county's going to have 2 officers working full-time, 40 hours per week, just like the BRA. I will say there is a misnomer at the lake, even amongst some of our folks here in our own office, that somebody's at the lake at all times. We have folks that get sick. We have folks that go on PTO, on vacation, and we're not always on the water, so the county, they're not going to always have somebody on the water either, but it'll be very comparable, if not greater than what we have, I do believe. And as I said earlier, the county's going to have multiple persons to be able to backfill should something come up. So the question was asked about asset protection. The agreement mandates that the county's going to patrol just like the Brazos River Authority. They're going to dedicate no less than 2 officers out there full-time at the Brazos River Authority or at Moore Shepherd Dam in Brazos and Possum Kingdom Lake. There's a question about coverage. Again, they're going to patrol similar to the BRA. There is a substation that's located on the peninsula that runs in between the lake. It's centrally located, so that's going to allow the county to respond. They've gone in and they've made some upgrades to that facility too, so they're going to use that as a hub for some of their operations. Question was asked about asset replacement. So as part of this agreement, if you recall, we were going to provide 2 vehicles, a 2019, 2 trucks, both dated or year 2019, and then also 1 boat. And the county is going to be responsible for the maintenance and replacement of those vehicles and that boat whenever it's required. There was also a question about looking at DPS as an option. We did speak to DPS representative, and their cost analysis came out substantially higher. Their quote was about $3 million a year, and that didn't include, they wanted us to construct a new office building for them and also provide an admin. So those costs were going to be about $3.5 million a year. So that eliminated that option pretty quickly, and DPS also could not enforce BRA rules and regs. And so that was another big issue in addition to the cost. We did speak to Parks and Wildlife, to the game wardens. Parks and Wildlife has always been very beneficial and helpful to the BRA, and we work in concert with them. They're going to continue to patrol the lakes like they've been doing for years. They've already, as I said earlier, they've been coordinating with the county, providing some training to the county, to these some of the new officers. And BRA does have a couple of officers that used to work for BRA that are actually officers, deputy sheriffs for the county. So it's not going to be new to all these folks coming from the county either. Some of these guys have done this work before. Also, whenever we talk to the game wardens, just like at our other lakes, they cannot enforce BRA rules and regs. So that was one of the bigger issues that we found in kind of speaking with everybody. But those were some of the board comments and questions. Some of the benefits I kind of mentioned, staff believes this is not only really fiscally prudent, but organizationally efficient, having one law enforcement or one primary law enforcement agency within the area. That provides, the same or a greater level of service. So I do have a resolution for y'all's consideration. As I said earlier, we've met with the county sheriff, county judge, county attorney, and others. Everybody is in agreement with the interlocal. Provided this is approved by the board today, I've spoken with the county. Their intent is to go to the Commissioner's Court on June the 12th. They would adopt a resolution very similar. And then we would anticipate a transition from the date of that execution of that contract within 30 days. So probably within 30 days after June 12th. Also speaking with the county, they're not going to really wait around for this to get moving along. I think here they're going to start ramping up, or they've actually already started ramping up, but I think they're going to start ramping up, and you might see them out on the lake much earlier than this is even signed if it is approved by the board today. And I think
Appreciate you and your team going back and researching all those different options that were brought up in January. So I know y'all have done a lot of work to get to this point. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Director Lattimore.
Mike, if understanding that the sheriff is going to provide, or the sheriff's office is going to provide this service, if there's an emergency somewhere else in the county and there's need of something at Possum Kingdom, how is the sheriff going to balance those two demands? Are they going to, is he going to provide officers in both places?
they'll have officers in both places. So they'll have the two that are dedicated to the BRA, and then they'll have other officers in the lake. Now, we have spoken with the sheriff, and if there's something on I-20 that's, shuts down I-20 in a major hazmat spill, and they've got to have all officers, we said, of course, y'all can respond to your peace officers, or if there's a shooting or something, something along those lines. We've tried to assure the county that, we'll work with y'all and they'll work with us, but I think we've got an agreement that the sheriff's comfortable with, and we are as well.
So we can expect, unless there's something just an extreme emergency, we can expect
officers
coverage at Possum Kingdom.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's a question.
Yes, sir.
Help me a little bit, because I'm not familiar with the whole area up there. Is the Possum Kingdom Lake and all our assets in one county?
No, they're not, but probably, I'd say 90% are within Palo Pinto County.
So what's the other county?
Jack County, what's the other county?
Parker? Or on the other side?
So it's in, okay.
Jack, Young, and Stevens. But it's a very small portion of that.
So there's slices of the lake that's in 3 other counties?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Please read the resolution.
Whereas the BRA owns and operates Possum Kingdom Lake and Moore Shepherd Dam, which are primarily located within Palo Pinto County's jurisdiction. Whereas it is the intent of the BRA and the county to collaborate in providing a safe and secure environment both for the public and for BRA's critical infrastructure on and around Possum Kingdom Lake. Whereas the BRA and the county believe a centralized leadership structure through the Palo Pinto County Sheriff's Office is the most efficient and effective way to ensure safety and security on and around Possum Kingdom Lake. Whereas, as the Palo Pinto Sheriff's Office is the chief law enforcement agency for the area containing Possum Kingdom Lake, the BRA desires to support the county in centralizing law enforcement functions under that office. Whereas the county agrees to assume responsibility for law enforcement services on and around Possum Kingdom Lake and BRA-owned properties. Whereas, recognizing the importance of protecting and securing critical infrastructure, the county will provide law enforcement services in and around Morris Shepherd Dam in a manner that facilitates the security of BRA's critical infrastructure, and BRA will provide funding for that purpose. Whereas, BRA agrees to convey certain law enforcement assets, and whereas the county shall provide at a minimum the law enforcement services set forth therein. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute an interlocal agreement with Palo Pinto County to provide law enforcement services, and Be it further resolved that the BRA law enforcement assets identified in the interlocal agreement with Palo Pinto County Exhibit B, including but not limited to the following, are declared surplus and may be conveyed upon execution of the interlocal agreement to Palo Pinto County. 2019 Dodge 1500 Classic Crew Cab, VIN 1 Charlie 6 Romeo Romeo 7 Kilo Tango 9 Kilo Sierra 667791. 2019 Dodge 1500 Classic Crew Cab, VIN 1 Charlie 6 Romeo Romeo 7 Kilo Tango Oscar Kilo S 667792. 2013 Nonistar serial number Juliet November Tango 20336 Delta 313. 2020 Mercury 300 XL PSX boat motor serial number 3 Bravo 001494. T 2460 aluminum 24-foot trailer serial number 41 Yankee Alpha Lima 272 Delta 204 1662.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Henderson, a second made by Director Crum. Please call the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item 17, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2023 second quarter budget report by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
Presiding officer, this is a report that is in your book. If you have any questions, our CFO can address them. If not, it's a report only.
Any questions on agenda item number 17? Seeing none, moving on to agenda item number 18, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2023 second quarter investment report by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
This one also is in your report. Ditto.
Any discussion about agenda item number 18, which is also in your convene? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda number 19. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Director Huber, a second made by Director Smith.
Well done, folks. That's a lot of business.
Thank you all very much. It's 2:07 PM.